Part 66. Fantasy, Me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 652. It's God Emperor Bu, he's here. Lucan Z said in surprise. Needless to say, the strength of Emperor Bu. His ranking on the Immortal King list is very high. It can be said that if the top 20 people do not take action, he is a well-deserved synonym for invincibility. Bu. Do you want countless people under your command to be buried with you? King Ying stopped in the sky. His eyes were cold, staring at God Emperor Bu. He did not act rashly. He knew that he was taking a step forward. I am afraid that he will face the attack of God Emperor Bu. You can try. God Emperor Bu still strode forward. He was unstoppable. Every step he took was as heavy as a billion stones, and the oppressive void was trembling. The spear in his hand pointed diagonally at the void, making a buzzing sound, and thousands of divine lights twined around it. The dazzling divine blood dropped from it, which is the blood essence of the Immortal King. Every drop is extremely precious and can crush a world. However, at this time, the least valuable thing is the blood of the Immortal King. Although the war has just begun. But many immortal kings have begun to fall. If you take a step forward, you will become the enemy of the demon world. You have to think clearly. King Ying's face turned cold when he saw the actions of God Emperor Bu. His breath was steaming, and the sea of fire around him spread out, sweeping across the sky and the earth. The boundless flame Wanyang made a deafening sound of waves, and a high after the first level, there are real dragons flying and fairy phoenixes soaring. It exudes an aura that is like destroying the world. Since I'm here, I've already thought it through. God Emperor Bu was unmoved. He stepped down, the sea of fire collapsed, and the stars were destroyed. With just one kick, thousands of stars were shattered, just like a supreme holy king on patrol. No one can stop him. Come to death. When God Emperor Bu was walking in the sea of fire, an immortal king from the heavenly demon realm suddenly came out. He merged with the sea of fire. He did not show any aura before, but now he suddenly attacked. It directly caused many heavens and all the gods to fight. The strong man in the world suddenly changed his color. This immortal king is too insidious. Ming Ming, King Ying and King Xian had arrived here long ago. When they dealt with Lu Qinghong just now, they did not take action. It was not until this time that he showed his figure. This point it was something that no one expected. Who would have thought that there would be another immortal king hidden in King Ying's sea of fire? Careful! Several people in the Lu clan spoke up to warn. But it was already too late. The speed of sound transmission was far less than the speed at which an immortal king could take action. This immortal king was not an ordinary immortal king. If he didn't take action, it would be enough. His attack was bound to cause the earth to collapse. He held a black broken blade and slashed straight at the neck of God Emperor Bu. The speed was too fast. It was like a sudden shock. Even the immortal king had no room to react. He did it. This immortal king of the heavenly demon realm seemed to have seen how the divine Emperor Bu, who ranked at the top of the list of immortal kings, was decapitated by his own sword. Not to mention beheading such an immortal king. Even if it meant severely injuring him, is it enough to make himself famous? Just when he was daydreaming about it? Buzz! A 3-foot spear burst out with a brilliance that could illuminate the universe. It drew an arc in the air, struck first, and stabbed out in the air. Poof! At this moment, time seems to freeze. All the scenes have stopped. Only God Emperor Bu is still walking in stride without any lag in the middle, but the difference is. He holds a spear in one hand, there was a figure hanging on the other end of the spear. Jet black essence and blood flowed down the spear. The blackened spear body made people's hearts tremble, and the pores all over the body felt like they had been pricked by needles. It happened. What? How come that in just a split second, the immortal king who suddenly attacked just now was penetrated by God Emperor Bu? This is too terrifying. Most of the immortal kings thought to themselves that if it had been them just now, they might have already been beheaded by a sword. Even if the remaining soul is taken out, the vitality will be severely damaged. But on the other hand, God Emperor Bu behaves like a normal person. Stabbing an immortal king to death is like squeezing an ant to death and strolling around. His strength is terrifying. Until now, many people have realized that the characters who have stepped onto the Immortal King list are no longer in the same world as them, especially those at the top. As for the top 10 characters, although they are not quasi-immortals emperor, but the difference is probably not big. At the very least, such a person should be able to fight against the quasi-immortal emperor. Bang! There was another loud noise. God Emperor Bu stepped down, and the sea of fire in front of him was exploded by his kick. Endless fire light flew in all directions, piercing through countless stars. In the distance. Moreover, stars were completely eroded by the green fire and began to burn. Their brilliance shone in all directions, casting a green sheen on the sky and the earth. Anyone who stands in my way will die. God Emperor Bu shouted loudly, and the spear in his hand sent out a world-destroying wave, rumbling loudly. The immortal king above had not yet died. He raised a scream. Then, boom! His body exploded completely, and the dark blood, mixed with broken bones and flesh, flew in all directions. Even his soul was completely wiped out at the same time. This scene was so shocking. An immortal king, he was beaten to a pulp like this, and nothing was left in the end, which made people feel chilly. God Emperor Bu, how dare you? In the distant void, another immortal king from the heavenly demon realm came to kill him. His body was filled with black light, thousands of rays of light were flowing, and the avenue was rumbling, suppressing the human world. Behind him, there were several immortal kings following him, each of them had a terrifying aura. As if they could separate the two realms of heaven and man, they all attacked God Emperor Bu. The immeasurable fluctuations of true energy filled the entire dark world. They wanted to avenge the fallen immortal king just now, but they understood that if they were alone, no one can be the opponent of God Emperor Bu. Only by the combined efforts of himself and others, plus King Ying, can it be possible to block the opponent. But what they didn't expect was that at the moment when the true energy broke through the air, counting, a Taoist figure appeared out of the sky and stood in front of them. Your opponent is us. The second ancestor's white beard fluttered, and his old face looked a bit solemn. Today's scene reminded him of some lost memories. It seemed that he had seen the same scene during the war in the underworld. The only difference is, at first, I was helpless, watching the great ancestor fall, but I had no choice. Today, I have become the other person, watching my longtime friend fall in front of me. Court death. Several immortal kings from the heavenly demon realm had cold eyes. Without any hesitation, they directly collided with immortal King Lu. Several immortal kings fought, and the sky here was instantly exploded. The terrifying true energy was so powerful. Go out and let the whole world tremble, as if it is about to shatter. Emperor Bu, it seems that a battle between you and me is inevitable. King Yi stood in the sky, glanced at the battlefield next to him, and said calmly. Originally, the few immortal kings who came just now could hold back the Emperor Bu, but in the end, they were interfered by the Lu family, causing him to completely lose the opportunity to control the weapon of the quasi-immortal emperor. If God Emperor Bu cannot be defeated, it is hard to say who this weapon will eventually belong to. Things in the divine world are not something you can get your hands on. Beiyu God Emperor's spear was cold and pointed at King Ying, and he slowly said, "Is it just a thing without an owner?" King Ying didn't mean it, he said with a chuckle. This was obtained by the Lu clan, and it naturally belongs to the Lu clan. If you, the people of the heavenly demon realm, want to get your hands on this weapon, you must first pass my test. God Emperor Bio said indifferently. He was also very coveted for a quasi-immortal emperor-level weapon, but he couldn't possibly snatch it. After all, the Lu family is now the backbone of the God realm. If at this time, because of a quasi-immortal emperor's weapon, if it falls out with the Lu clan, the gain outweighs the loss. After all, he is also in the Tianji Tower and has obtained a lot of information. There is no time to verify it at the moment, but now he has sold it to the Lu clan to save their face. The weapon of the quasi-immortal emperor. After a while, the Lu family will naturally reciprocate the favor. Help him. A mere immortal king cannot stop the entire world of demons, let alone the underworld. King Ying raised his hand, grabbed the immortal refining tower in the distance, and rushed out immediately to kill Emperor Biu with his own hands, and then turned around to suppress the weapons of the quasi-immortal emperor next to him. He knew that Emperor Biu ranked above himself in the immortal king list. But any living being is contradictory. When he sees someone who is ranked lower than himself, he regards the immortal king list as a golden rule, but when he sees someone who is ranked higher than himself, some doubts arose in his heart. I am so strong, how can this person be better than me? Boom! King Ying and God Emperor Biu fought together. The stars in the universe collapsed in large areas. The immortal refining tower shocked the world, flowing with chaotic brilliance. Terrifying pressure was released. When the immortal refining tower was shaken, and was swept away by God Emperor Biu. It struck hundreds of millions of miles across, penetrated countless stars, and extinguished countless star fields. Along the way, hundreds of immortal kings suffered disaster. Was hit by the immortal refining tower, and his whole body was shaken violently, almost bursting into pieces. At the same time, on another battlefield, a young man with a tall figure, disheveled hair, and crystal-clear body stood in the void, looking at an immortal king fighting against each other, and he opened an ancient book in his hand. The moment the ancient book was opened, the light rushed into the night, and the aura was unparalleled in ancient and modern times. It was as if there was a quasi-immortal emperor in it, suddenly resurrected and born. Next moment, among the books, a total of 365 words flew up and then hung in the sky. Like 365 suns, they turned into a terrifying killing array. The light was so bright. Can't open your eyes. The killing array left by the quasi-immortal emperor. Who are you? No, do not want. Let me out. I am the demon world. In the formation, the roar of the immortal king came. But the young man turned a deaf ear. There was no expression on his face. He formed a seal with his 5 fingers and created a mysterious rune. Suddenly, the entire formation came to life. Countless immortal kings among them were suppressed to the ground, and their souls were slowly wiped out. The weaker immortal king was completely refined after a moment and disappeared between heaven and earth. The scene here is very terrifying. But no immortal king has intervened in the affairs here, and can come up with a figure who is close to the immortal emperor's killing array. This is not an ordinary person, and it is not something that ordinary immortal kings can afford to provoke. This person is unusual. The Lord of Tianmang Mountain and Lu Qinghong stood in the void. Both of them were covered in blood. It was obvious that they had experienced a battle. Now they had just left the battle. The Lord of Tianmang Mountain glanced at the terrifying formation in the distance. Then he withdrew his gaze. That young man should also be a person on the immortal king list. But he didn't know the name. Not every one of the 100 people on the immortal king list was known to him. He had heard of their names, but he didn't recognize them. There are many people around me. Right now. The other party has not provoked him, and he will not ruin other people's good deeds. You go to help King Xian, and I will help King Ying. The lord of Tianmang Mountain glanced at Lu Qingyu next to him and said quickly. King Ying and King Xian faced off against God Emperor Biu and Lu Qinghong respectively. Their strength was a little worse than that of their opponents. Without the help of outsiders, it would be estimated. It is only a matter of time before King Ying and King Xian are defeated. Good. Lu Qingyu didn't hesitate at all. He looked at the battlefield between Lu Qinghong and King Xian, and said coldly, I have long wanted to meet Lu Qinghong for a while. Look at how terrifying this genius of our Lu family has become in recent years. After saying that, he turned into a divine light and rushed towards Lu Qinghong. Lu Qinghong, accept your fate. The person was in mid-air, he spoke coldly, and made a stone seal in his hand. This stone seal was very terrifying. It was enlarged to a radius of tens of thousands of miles, crowded the world, and filled the sky with wind and thunder, suppressing Lu Qinghong. Lu Qingyu. During the fierce fight, Lu Qinghong looked back, with a trace of undisguised murderous intent flashing in his eyes. He had long wanted to meet this traitor of the Lu family. Now, the other party actually came to his door. Coming. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 653. Welcome. Lu Qinghong shouted. He resisted King Sun's attack and rushed towards Lu Qingyu without retreating. Boom. Lu Qinghong struck out quickly. He punched forward. The sound of Daolun was deafening, and the universe was trembling and wailing along with it. Bang. The stone seal that Lu Qingyu sacrificed did not even stop it. It turned into rubble on the sky and shot out in all directions. Looking at the scene in front of him, Lu Qingyu was momentarily distracted. He obviously did not expect that his magic weapon would be crushed by Lu Qinghong so easily, without even letting the opponent pause for a moment. How can it be? Lu Qingyu murmured. Before he could think too much, the opponent's fist was already in front of him. He also raised his hand to meet it. Puff. Lu Qingyu's fist was the same as the stone seal just now. It suddenly exploded as soon as it came into contact, with blood dripping and bones covered with bones. Ah! Lu Qingyu let out a scream. It was extremely sad. He wanted to pull away, but it was too late. Lu Qinghong had already reached the front, and the fierce evil aura rushed towards his face, like Wang Yang's glance. The oppressive Lu Qingyu almost suffocated. It wasn't until this moment that he realized how big the gap between himself and Lu Qinghong was. It was a world of difference. Die. Lu Qinghong spoke solemnly. He opened his fist, grabbed Lu Qingyu's arm with 5 fingers, and pulled it back suddenly, and the whole arm was torn off by him. Blood sprayed from the broken part, dyeing a large area of the starry sky red. Lu Qinghong was bathed in blood and crazy. The whole person seems to be a god of war who walked out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, and his hair is flowing with fairy light, which makes people shudder. Laugh. Lu Qinghong pointed his sword together again and drew it down in the air. A bright sword light bloomed, splitting the whole world and turning into a galaxy. It surged towards Lu Qingyu. Seeing this scene, Lu Qingyu was frightened. The ghost of the deceased was so great that he shouted loudly. King Xian, save me. King Xian not far away was extremely speechless. He wanted to say to Lu Qingyu, that's it? That's it? Just now he and Lu Qinghong were fighting, and they were already at a disadvantage. When he saw an immortal king coming to help him, he was very happy at first. But it turned out that the immortal king who rushed over was completely severely injured before he could survive for a blink of an eye. Now he really wanted to ask Lu Qingyu, are you here to help or to cause trouble? Lu Qinghong hasn't taken care of it yet, but he has to help you get out of the siege. In this way, the pressure is not as great as usual. Just when King Xian was about to take action, the situation changed again. I saw. Lu Qingyu saw that the situation was not right, immediately burning the essence and blood all over his body. His whole body turned into a red light and flew towards the sky. In the blink of an eye, Lu Qingyu had turned into a point of light and flew 100,000 miles away. King Xian is stupid. I've already planned to save you, why are you running away? Help me trap Lu Qinghong. You are also an immortal king after all. Even if your body is broken, as long as your soul is immortal, you can still shape it. Wait, student, why are you so greedy for life and afraid of death? It's good now. Lu Qingyu burned his soul. Lu Qinghong didn't think about it at all, and chased after him. He was left behind, a little at a loss. At this time, it stands to reason that it is the right time to seize the quasi-immortal emperor. A good opportunity for a weapon, but that kind of weapon is too powerful, and he doesn't think he can refine it in a short time. If he can't refine it, but he rashly approaches the quasi-immortal emperor weapon, it is very likely that he will provoke a powerful enemy. More importantly, Lu Qingyu's essence and blood were burning. Once Lu Qinghong catches up with him, he will probably be killed soon. By then, Lu Qinghong will be fighting back. I'm afraid he will be the unlucky one. In King Xian's mind, countless thoughts flashed through his mind, and soon he figured out the joints and quickly chased after Lu Qinghong. Lu Qingyu could not die no matter what. He could still exert some restraint on Lu Qinghong while he was alive. Otherwise, he might not be able to do it alone. Lu Qinghong's opponent. Then, a strange scene appeared in the whole dark world. The three immortal kings were arranged in a three-point line, flying madly along the pillars of the sky, flying rapidly upward. Lu Qingyu in the front was burning. With blood and essence all over his body, his speed soared to the extreme. In the blink of an eye, he was 1,000,000 miles away. Behind him, Lu Qinghong and King Xian, they fought each other again and followed Lu Qingyu. There was no difference between the two sides. 100,000 miles. This distance may be extremely far for ordinary people, but for the immortal king, it is nothing at all. It is no different from standing together. How could it be so strong? Lu Qingyu flew in front and took a sneak peek behind him. Don't worry if you don't look at it. He was shocked when he saw it. Lu Qinghong and King Xian were just fighting each other. The distance between them was actually still there. Zoom in. This is a bit exaggerated. What kind of monsters are listed on the Immortal King list of Tianji Tower? Without the help of King Xian, Lu Qingyu thought to himself, even if he burned his blood essence, he might not be able to run very far. Will be caught up by Lu Qinghong, I guess. This is also the reason why Lu Qinghong dares to catch up. Waste. King Xian cursed angrily in his heart. As a dignified immortal king, Lu Qingyu has obviously been frightened by Lu Qinghong. He doesn't even have the courage to turn around and confront the enemy. He only thinks about escaping. It is true that Lu Qinghong is the strongest one on the immortal king list. But he is not bad either. He is not much weaker than Lu Qinghong. It is still possible for the two of them to work together to put Lu Qinghong into a dangerous situation, but now, the two immortal kings were actually suppressed and beaten by Lu Qinghong. King Tarzan in the two eras of the immortal world, have you ever suffered from such a cowardly attitude? Lu Qingyu, you can't escape. Behind. Lu Qinghong spoke. He held a bronze halberd and struck it upward. No one could stop him. Even King Xian was thrown away by him at this moment. Lu Qinghong, do you really want to kill all your fellow clan members? Lu Qingyu roared. He was really scared. Seeing the big halberd from above, which covered the sky and blocked the sun, fell down, unparalleled terrifying power burst out from his body. He was not fighting against Lu Qinghong. But at a faster speed, he rushed towards the sky. Even so, he still did not escape the blow. When the universe collapsed, the sharp blade of the halberd tore the universe apart. The biting wind, mixed with the boundless evil energy, completely tore half of Lu Qingyu's body, exposing the dense white bones. The bright red blood of the immortal king is worthless. It seemed to be scattered in all directions. The lethality was extremely shocking. Even King Xian couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. After being hit hard again, Lu Qingyu glanced at King Xian and Lu Qinghong who were fighting, and did not dare to stop. They didn't dare to say even a harsh word. They soared into the sky again. Half a day passed in a flash. The three of them fought and then retreated. They no longer knew where they were flying. The originally high Optimus pillar was gradually revealed. The top of the Optimus pillar is a huge platform. It is very vast. Looking around, there are continuous pavilions and pavilions everywhere. The only pity is that most of these palaces have already reached him. And they have transformed. In order to be dark and integrated with the surrounding environment, the remaining formation lines can be vaguely seen among the ruins. Even after countless years, there is a terrifying killing intention permeating it. It is difficult to imagine that, how terrifying it would be if this place were intact. In the center is a majestic hall, standing tall. After hundreds of millions of years, it is the only one that has not collapsed, exuding the supreme power of suppression for eternity. Even Lu Qingyu, the first time he saw this palace, his heart couldn't help but jump. Even if he was the immortal king, he couldn't help but kneel on the ground, as if facing a supreme immortal emperor, which made him feel alive in his heart. I can't think of any other thoughts, I just want to worship devoutly. What is this place? Lu Qingyu murmured to himself, and then glanced behind him, where Lu Qinghong was coming quickly. He gritted his teeth without any hesitation. He quickly flew towards the central palace. This palace was 10,000 feet high. It was very majestic. The two bronze gates were carved with various ancient reliefs. Due to time, many of the patterns were no longer identifiable. Even if they could be identified. Lu Qingyu had no such intention at the moment. He stretched out his hand and pushed violently. Opening the door, a loud bang came out, and in the gap he pushed open, a kind of supreme divine power surged out. A wisp of power that belonged to the quasi-immortal emperor spread like a tide, spreading in all directions, covering it in an instant. The whole huge world was affected. Many of the immortal kings who were still fighting did not know what happened. They were pressed to the ground with a thud. What's more, some immortal kings with relatively weak cultivation couldn't even stay standing. They fell to their knees on the ground. Only some strong men on the immortal king list could barely stand on the ground. Lu Qingyu, what did you do? On the edge of the top of the mountain, Lu Qinghong and King Xian stood together. As soon as they stepped here, they were suppressed by a terrifying pressure. Let alone taking action, they are still standing. It was not easy. Not far away from the two of them, Lu Qingyu was slowly pushing open the bronze door with his hands, and the terrifying pressure was transmitted through the opened gap. It seemed that this was an endless building. In the palace of the immortal emperor is recovering, extremely terrifying. It was you who forced me. Lu Qingyu turned back and glanced at Lu Qinghong. His expression remained unchanged. He stretched out a hand forward with difficulty and quickly placed it on the bronze door. With a slight exertion, the originally heavy door roared and completely opened to both sides. Open. Don't want. King Xian yelled. Although he didn't know what would be behind the bronze door, judging from the pressure escaping, I'm afraid there is a great secret hidden in it. Once it is released, I'm afraid it will cause a big mess. After all, how could the immortal emperor's aura appear out of thin air? If things go wrong, there will be a supreme immortal emperor behind this gate. If that immortal emperor really comes out, everyone here will probably die. I wonder which immortal emperor can bear it when his Lokao takes action wantonly. More importantly, King Xian thinks that he is just here to go through the motions. His main purpose is to help King Ying and make himself familiar in front of the underworld, and then survive this catastrophe. Who could have imagined that he would end up in such a situation? At this moment, King Xian's heart was about to break. Lu Qingyu, this is the seal left in the past, close the door quickly. King Xian yelled. Although I don't know the origin of this dark world, anyone with a little brain can understand that all the buildings are broken, only this one is intact. It doesn't look normal no matter how you look at it. There must be a great terror hidden in it. Late. Lu Qingyu looked at King Xian and Lu Qinghong, with a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Even if he died today, he would have to support a few people. There are several strong men on the immortal king list who will die with him. Look at it this way, it seemed like there was no harm in going up. He turned around, no longer caring about Lu Qinghong, but looking into the hall. He was also a little curious at the moment, what was hidden in this hall. But at the first glance, he stunned. How can it be? Lu Qingyu's eyes widened and he shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, his whole body trembled, as if he had seen something incredible. He staggered and struggled backwards. But under the immense pressure, it's like carrying a mountain on your back. Not to mention going backwards, even if you move your fingers, it will extremely difficult. The entire palace door was wide open, and the heavy pressure of the immortal emperor was not something that ordinary people could withstand. It's not easy for Lu Qingyu to carry it till now. What's in the palace? Lu Qinghong said. He was a little curious in his heart. What was in the hall that could scare Lu Qingyu into such a state? No matter what, Lu Qingyu is an immortal king. What must it be to make an immortal king lose his composure like this? Something amazing. Fairy, immortal emperor. They also stay alive. Lu Qingyu murmured. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 654. I saw. In the main hall. 9 altars stand high. The altar is divided into 2 rows on the left and right, 4 in one row, and the altar in the center is even more magnificent. Kanghai Immortal Emperor. On the altar on the left. A vast aura like Wangyang spreads. Above the altar, an ethereal figure sits cross-legged, with a majestic and breathtaking posture that shocked the past and present. His eyes opened, like 2 pieces of Wangyang just as deep and boundless. Around him, there were waves sweeping across, isolating heaven and earth, dividing time and space, and making people unable to see his face clearly, but the aura escaping from his body all revealed his identity. How could Kanghai Immortal Emperor be here? Lu Qingyu murmured to himself, very puzzled. According to the records of the Lu family, Kanghai Immortal Emperor was a quasi-immortal emperor who created a prosperous age countless epochs ago. His identity was extremely ancient. His strength was even more terrifying. Back then, when the underworld rose, the Kanghai Immortal Emperor came out of nowhere, fought against an underworld immortal emperor, and even severely injured the opponent, causing his fame to spread throughout the heavens and all the worlds. Even today, all the heavens and all the worlds, there are still many people who remember the reputation of Kanghai Immortal Emperor. But the problem is, with the disappearance of the God Emperor, didn't Kanghai Immortal Emperor disappear together? If I remember correctly, Kanghai Immortal Emperor should have appeared for the last time. It was from the air that the Tianyun realm was shattered. Since then, there has been no news about Kanghai Immortal Emperor. Why did he suddenly appear here today? Above the altar. Kanghai Immortal Emperor is so majestic, as if he has fallen into a deep sleep, but even so, those pair of eyes can still penetrate eternity, transcending the limitations of time and space, and fall on the current world. It seems that everything today was expected by Kanghai Immortal Emperor. Eccentric. Lu Qingyu was inexplicably shocked. His eyes did not stay too long on Kanghai Immortal Emperor, but looked at the next altar. It was so weird here. Kanghai Immortal Emperor on the altar gave him an extremely real feeling, as if he was truly accurate. The Immortal Emperor is right in front of him, but his intuition tells him that the Kanghai Immortal Emperor has left, and what appears here may be a phantom. No matter what kind it is. He cannot verify it for the time being, and stares at the other party rashly to observe, maybe it will attract the reaction of Kanghai Immortal Emperor. If the other party takes action and presses him to death, it will be a big loss. On the next altar, above is a hazy figure, surrounded by fairy mist. All that can be seen is that it should be a humanoid creature. He stood on the altar with his hands behind his back. There was a sense of desolation, of eternal loneliness permeating the void. Anyone who took a look at it couldn't help but feel a sad emotion in their heart, as if they were affected by the mere sight of the other person's back. Got it? This is. Lu Qingyu carefully identified it and murmured, is this Immortal Emperor Liu Yun? The specific years of Immortal Emperor Liu Yun's existence cannot be verified. He suddenly took action after the underworld swept through most of the heavens and worlds. As soon as he was born, he saved the already endangered God realm. Many people speculated that Immortal Emperor Liu Yun might be an immortal emperor of the God realm. It was very possible that he had been living in seclusion in the God realm before. Seeing that the God realm was in danger, he decided to take action. Later, after the underworld was destroyed, he once suppressed Lu Wuodao from a distance. But the result was that Lu Wuodao only shattered one of Lu Wuodao's quasi-immortal emperor weapons, but did not retain Lu Wuodao, allowing the other party to escape with serious injuries. This one thing. It also helped Lu Wuodao's reputation reach a higher level. As for what happens next, there are not many records about Immortal Emperor Liu Yun. Many people suspect that he left the heavens and worlds with the God Emperor. Now it seems that there are other hidden secrets. Immortal Emperor Kanghai, Immortal Emperor Liu Yun, and two immortal emperors from all over the world have appeared. Who are the two following? Lu Qingyu looked behind him attentively, but he only saw two groups of divine lights. Two tall figures sat in the middle, but he could not distinguish their identities. This made him feel helpless. He wanted to see clearly the truth, but the truth was right in front of him, but it seemed to be shrouded in a layer of fog. His consciousness could not detect it at all, and he could not confirm whether these immortal emperors were entities or phantoms. As for the last two immortal emperors, he was even more unable to confirm identity. Could it be said that the God Emperor and others did not leave the world, but stayed here? Lu Qingyu was puzzled. He glanced at the altar at the deepest point. The figure on it was even more terrifying. He looked from a distance and couldn't even see a single figure. Only thousands of fairy lights bloomed, and there were avenues and sounds. Dragons and phoenixes danced, as if there was a person sitting cross-legged there, but there seemed to be no existence. It was very strange. Lu Qingyu was a little confused. Even at this time, he couldn't even sense the immortal emperor's breath, only that a pressure still weighs on everyone's shoulders. It makes it difficult for them to move. In other words, the God Emperor and others have left, and these existences in front of them are just projections. Lu Qingyu speculated in his mind. If it is a ray of projection, then there is no need to worry too much. Although the projection of the quasi-immortal emperor and even the immortal emperor is still very terrifying, its strength is relatively limited and is not enough to wipe out all of them. But the problem is. Lu Qingyu looked at the altar on the other side. This side. There are also 4 altars. On the altar at the front is a figure in white. Although it is calm, it is terrifying and gives people a strange and shocking feeling. This quasi-immortal emperor, dressed in white as snow, with disheveled hair, stood there with the very vicissitudes of life in his eyes, and the flow of time around him was distorted. It seems to exist in the present, and it seems to exist in the past. It doesn't seem to belong to any time and space. Just when Lukinyu wanted to take a closer look, the figure in white suddenly twisted, and the figure dimmed. Only a drop of crystal blood essence was left on the spot. That is the essence and blood of a quasi-immortal emperor, which can crush the heavens and all realms and cut across the long river of time. It hangs there quietly, making people shudder. Isn't this immortal emperor Yuan Huo? Lu Qingyu said in shock. Immortal emperor Yuan Hui is very familiar to him. As a quasi-immortal emperor who jumped repeatedly, almost no one in the entire world knows about him. More importantly, Yuan Hui Immortal Emperor is known to almost everyone in the world. The inheritance of Immortal Emperor Huo lies within the Lu clan. Immortal Emperor Yuan Hui is the only quasi-immortal emperor who has been confirmed to have fallen. Of course, whether he has fallen or not is controversial in the outside world. After all, quasi-immortal emperor, is he so easy to kill? Maybe he was reborn again with a drop of blood. No matter whether Immortal Emperor Yuan Hui is dead or alive in the end, it is impossible for him to stand with Immortal Emperor Kang Hai and others, let alone stand in the same hall. Immortal Emperor Yuan Hui has fought against Immortal Emperor Kang Hai and others. Even if Immortal Emperor Yuan Hui betrayed the underworld in the end, how could Immortal Emperor Kang Hai and others just let go of their relationship with Immortal Emperor Yuan Hui? The grievances between them. Behind Immortal Emperor Yuan Hui, 3 groups of black brilliance floated on the altar. It can be seen that there is also a quasi-immortal emperor on it, but his face cannot be seen, and even his breath is extremely hazy. There is a faint law of reincarnation permeating it. It is difficult not to think of the underworld. The God Emperor and several powerful quasi-immortal emperors are now in the same room with the powerful people from the underworld. This is too unbelievable. Even Lu Qingyu was doubting the authenticity of the ancient books he had seen before. Aren't all the worlds and the underworld at odds with each other? Now they are in the same room, so what the hell? It can't be said that this was arranged by someone with intentions. If it is true, someone arranged it? Who did such a big move? The Lord of the Underworld? But the question is, didn't the Lord of the Underworld fall? That immortal emperor is still alive. Not far away. King Xian spoke. His voice was very heavy, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. The palace door was pushed open by Lu Qingyu just now, and the heavy pressure of the immortal emperor could not be faked. It was 100% from a quasi-immortal emperor. Or rather an immortal emperor. If there is really a quasi-immortal emperor still alive, then the problem will be huge. If it is a quasi-immortal emperor from the underworld, it is fine, but if it is a quasi-immortal emperor from all the worlds. When King Xian thought of this, he didn't dare to think about it anymore. He had just joined the underworld, and a quasi-immortal emperor jumped out of the world. This joke was too big. It made him a little at a loss. Complete, all alive. Lu Qingyu glanced at King Xian and spoke with difficulty. Although he couldn't get close to the scene on the altar in the temple, he could feel that there was no fallen presence inside. To know. The quasi-immortal emperor can be reborn with a drop of blood, and with the essence and blood of the Yuan Hui immortal emperor on top, he can completely revive and return from the long river of time with the help of this drop of essence and blood. The reason why there is no trace of immortal emperor Yuan Hui is that maybe nothing happened to him from beginning to end. His true self, I don't know where, is still alive and well. What? Impossible. King Xian shouted angrily and said coldly, Lu Qingyu, do you know what you are talking about? How many quasi-immortal emperors can be found in this hall? If they were alive, why didn't they show up yet? Logically speaking, everything that happens in this world cannot be hidden from a quasi-immortal emperor. When the seal of this world was broken, a quasi-immortal emperor should have appeared. But until now, in this world, I didn't see any living beings. Many immortal kings have almost acquiesced in their hearts. This world has been completely silent. No living person exists. Naturally, there is no such powerful person as the quasi-immortal emperor. Lu Qingyu was speechless. He didn't know how to explain it. But the scene he saw in the palace truly reminded him that there were indeed several quasi-immortal emperors inside, and they seemed to be still alive. I just don't know why, but I haven't woken up yet. It's true. At this time, an indifferent voice came, resounding throughout the world. Who? Lu Qinghong raised his head and glanced around, but found nothing. When he turned around, beside Lu Qingyu, at some point, there was a figure shrouded in black mist. This person seemed to have been standing there for a long time. His eyes were deep, revealing the vicissitudes of eternity, as if he had been standing here for billions of years. Although he had just appeared, Lu Qinghong and others felt that they were the latecomers, and the other party seemed to be here. It's like waiting for them. This person's aura is all restrained, and he doesn't have any aura of a strong man, but it makes people dare not make any changes, and he can appear here quietly. And he is not suppressed by the aura in the temple and can walk around at will. It is obvious that unusual. It could be a quasi-immortal emperor. And in the world today, the only quasi-immortal emperor known to countless people, apart from the master of the Senluo Ghost territory, is the master of the Tianji building. Apart from the master of the Tianji building, he is aloof. He will definitely not come here. Since the place is not the owner of Tianji building, then this person's identity is ready to be revealed. He is the lord of Senluo Ghost territory. Junior Lu Qingyu pays homage to the territory lord. Lu Qingyu, who was next to him, had obviously figured everything out. He was overjoyed and shouted loudly. The lord of the Senluo Ghost territory is here, so it's safe. No matter how strong Lu Qinghong is, he can't trap him in front of the lord of the Senluo Ghost territory. Kill it yourself. You must know that he has also joined the underworld. For the master of Senluo Ghost territory, he is one of his own. The lord of Senluo Ghost territory nodded lightly. His eyes fell on King Xian. King Xian immediately bowed and saluted. His movements were difficult, but he did not dare to be rude. Have you met the lord of the territory? No need to be polite. This time, the lord of Senluo Ghost territory was obviously more optimistic about King Xian's salute. Then, his eyes fell on Lu Qinghong, and there was a rare appearance in Gujing Weibo's eyes. Feeling emotional, he said. Descendants of the Lu family. Good. Lu Qinghong said in a deep voice. Not long ago, I spared the lives of several members of your Lu family, but now you are not as lucky as them. You have only two options to choose from. Join the underworld, or die. These words were very indifferent. When the last word fell, the terrifying murderous intention swept out, shaking the starry sky for hundreds of millions of miles, and making countless stars eclipse. The murderous intention was like a tide, almost condensed into substance, and the people inside were almost suffocated and found it difficult to resist. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 655. In the underworld back then, there was an immortal emperor sitting in charge, and the ultimate outcome was inevitable defeat. Now that the underworld is no longer as prosperous as it once was, do you think it can still sweep the heavens? Lu Qinghong said in a deep voice. Poor man. The lord of the Senluo Ghost territory lowered his eyes, glanced at Lu Qinghong with pity, and said indifferently, so, you are not willing to join the underworld. In this life, Lu Qinghong is at odds with the underworld. Lu Qinghong said in a cold voice. As he spoke, he glanced at Lu Qingyu. The only regret in his heart was that he could not kill Lu Qingyu, the traitor, with his own hands. He was just an immortal king. Even if he stepped onto the immortal king list, he would not be able to kill him at all. It was impossible to kill Lu Qingyu next to the Lord of Senluo Ghost territory. The latter sensed Lu Qinghong's gaze and couldn't help but curl up a cold smile. Lu Qinghong was so talented and beautiful, so what? He was once a quasi-immortal emperor. So what if he is the first person below? In the end, in the face of absolute strength, he is still nothing but a handful of Lois. A person with slightly inferior strength, survived to the end. I have to say that fate plays tricks on people. Hit the road. The master of the Senluo Ghost territory snapped his fingers, and a world outside the territory fell. The sun, moon, mountains, and rivers shook at the same time, and the oppressive void rumbled. This method was too powerful. In the blink of an eye, a huge world was pulled in and fell. Even if an immortal king was going to be crushed to death. Not to mention, Lu Qinghong and others were unable to move at all. They could only watch themselves being suppressed below. But at the last moment. Buzz. Outside the territory. A simple cauldron flew from the distant depths of chaos. It was stained with rust and full of copper rust. It was broken in many places. It seemed to be decayed. From a distance, it seemed to break at the touch of a touch. Not to mention the weapon of the immortal king, even a casual cultivator would probably not take it seriously. But it is such a broken cauldron. After entering the dark world, it bloomed with bright brilliance, swaying with a grace that no one dared to look directly at. He tore the void directly. He was completely resurrected. He crashed into the world that fell from the sky. Boom. A huge sound came, and the world summoned by the Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory completely disintegrated in the air, and then was annihilated into nothingness by the violent true energy. This series of things happened, leaving many people stunned. They had just been the supreme aura suppressed, and then a world fell, and now a powerful weapon flew in, smashing that world into pieces. The brains of countless people were almost confused into paste at this moment. Who took action again? This big cauldron seems familiar. Could it be the Liu Yun cauldron of immortal Emperor Liu Yun in the past? Could it be that immortal Emperor Liu Yun has arrived? Many people still know about immortal Emperor Liu Yun. The sudden appearance of such a powerful quasi-immortal emperor today has boosted everyone's confidence and made them gradually feel more at ease. But the next second, enter the cauldron. A figure shrouded in light emerged. This person's whole body is glowing, and his figure is hazy. He looks like a human, but you can't see the whole picture. He seems to exist in the present and in the past. There are laws of time flowing around you. At the same time, several completely different auras appeared on him. It seems that he has practiced multiple techniques alone, and he seems to be a combination of many powerful people. It is very weird and makes people a little confused. But one thing has to be said. This person's strength is extremely terrifying, almost unfathomable. Even the strong men on the Immortal King list feel a little palpitated the moment they see him. It's like facing a quasi-immortal emperor. Immortal Emperor Liu Yun. Canghai Immortal Emperor. It doesn't seem right. You have the auras of many quasi-immortal emperors in your body. The voice of the Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory was a little strange. He looked at the person in front of him and seemed to understand something. He said slowly. You are not a living creature. Theoretically speaking. If a being wants to have the aura of the person in front of him, he must at least practice the skills of several quasi-immortal emperors at the same time, but the chance of this is too low. As long as a genius has several quasi-immortal emperors, with the complete technique, he could have created his own technique a long time ago. But this person obviously has no concept of creating a technique. Instead, he rigidly forcibly merged the techniques of several quasi-immortal emperors together. It gave him a strength that surpassed the immortal king, but did not reach the level of the quasi-immortal emperor. It was as if several quasi-immortal emperors had cooperated with each other to create a creature that did not belong to the world. And you? Are you a living creature? The Louis undying cauldron suppressed the void. A majestic creature stood on it. His whole body was bright, his energy and blood were strong, and his terrifying power was as powerful as Wan Yang. It was like a scorching sun, shining on all the heavens and all realms, illuminating every space was covered, making people afraid to look directly. He and the Lord of the Senluo ghost territory looked at each other calmly, and there was no wave in their voices, as if they had seen through each other's details. The conversation between the two was extremely dull, and it could be said that it was calm. But in the ears of those who heard it, huge waves were set off, making people almost unable to believe what they heard. This mysterious and powerful immortal king is not a living creature. Even the Lord of Senluo ghost territory is not a living being. Many immortal kings looked at each other in confusion, especially Lu Qinghong and King Xian. They looked at the master of the Senluo ghost territory, and then at the mysterious immortal king in front of them. I was extremely puzzled. If the Lord of Senluo ghost territory is not a living being, then who is he? Idiots become enlightened. But as far as they know, before this era, there was no quasi-immortal emperor who was a different kind of enlightenment. As for the current opportunity, he became a quasi-immortal emperor. That would be even more impossible. Because there has never been any record in that ancient book that in this era, there has been a quasi-immortal emperor's calamity. You have a good eye. The Lord of Senluo ghost territory did not deny it, but directly admitted it. As soon as he said these few words, it was like dropping a huge stone in the hearts of several people around him, setting off a stormy sea. Then who are you? Kanghai Immortal Emperor? Or Immortal Emperor Liu Yun? The Lord of Senluo ghost territory asked back. I have almost forgotten what happened in the past, and now I have another name, my name is Zhou Qi. On the big cauldron. A stalwart figure with an indifferent voice. As soon as the word Zhou Qi came out, the world became quiet. Even Lu Qinghong and King Xian opened their eyes wide and could hardly believe what they heard. Zhou Qi. The existence ranked first on the list of immortal kings. It was actually him. Sure enough. Senior Tianji building master did not lie to himself and others. The characters on the list of immortal kings are all still alive. Even the number 1 Zhou Qi appeared, so what about the others? Will he perish? I guess. Lu Wudao and others may also be here, but they just never show up. Zhou Beg. The master of Senluo ghost territory chuckled and said slowly, no one on the list of immortal kings. Do you think that the master of Tianji has promoted you to a high position and you can fight with me? Bang. The lord of the Senluo ghost territory took a step forward, the sky and the earth exploded, the stars outside the territory shone, and a supreme aura spread, sweeping every corner of the dark world. Behind him, in the endless darkness, it seemed that there is a world-destroying mill that is rumbling in motion, trying to destroy everything, which is daunting. This extremely ancient atmosphere reminds many people of a bad impression. Hell. King Xian turned pale. He was once a strong man who stood on the side of all the heavens and worlds. Even if the underworld was gone in the end, the aura of the underworld master has been imprinted into the depths of his soul. Let him never forget it. Now, in the body of the Senluo ghost territory lord, he actually sensed the aura of the underworld lord again. You are the lord of the underworld. King Xian was so shocked that he even spoke a little awkwardly. In the past, there were several quasi-immortal emperors sitting in the underworld, but the auras on their bodies were not so pure. After all, they all had their own ways. The master of the underworld for them, the technique is just a reference. Although it is inevitable to be infected with the aura of the underworld, it will never be so pure, and the aura of the master of the Senluo ghost domain is exactly the same as that of the master of the underworld. If I guessed correctly, the Lord of the Senluo ghost territory in front of me may be the Lord of the underworld in the past. Not only is he not dead, he is even alive and well. He is also a powerful quasi-immortal emperor. It won't take long for him to regain his peak cultivation level. You know, the master of the underworld is an immortal emperor. Good imagination. The Lord of Senluo ghost territory glanced at King Xian, chuckled and said, but it's a pity that you guessed wrong. You will feel lucky for your choice today. Because when the underworld comes again today, it will completely rule the heavens until the end of the long river of time. This time, Zhou rarely spoke. He took a step forward. The cauldron under his feet made a deafening roar. The birds, animals, insects, and fish carved on it all bloomed with dazzling brilliance. It seemed as if they came to life, filling the air. The ancient and terrifying pressure appeared. It seemed that a quasi-immortal emperor had stepped out from the long river of time. I won't let your plan succeed. Can you stop me? The voice of the Lord of the Senluo ghost territory was cold. He didn't see any movement. The void behind him suddenly cracked, and a thin young man with black clothes and black hair came out. This man had a cold face, calm steps, and an extremely indifferent expression. As soon as he appeared, it was like a magic wall, cutting across the two realms. The oppressive heavens and realms were about to collapse. His eyes swept across the void, like a divine sword coming out of his body, causing the universe to be cut apart. Zero was broken, and the souls of everyone who looked at him were trembling. From head to toe, there was a deep coldness in the bones. It was too intoxicating. Although he had not yet made a move, but just by the brilliance of this moment, enough to make the immortal king of 10,000 worlds retreat from him. Lu Wuodao. Lu Qinghong was beating a drum in his heart. He was born too late. Although he knew Lu Wuodao's name, he had never seen him. Today, he was in the space crack behind the Lord of the Senluo ghost territory. The man in black who walked out was invisibly connected to his mind. The image of Lu Wuodao overlapped together. This person was too unruly. He walked out from behind the Lord of the Senluo ghost territory, but never glanced at the Lord of the Senluo ghost territory. He seemed to be a powerful quasi-immortal emperor. In his eyes, he was just like air. Let me ask you, which immortal king in all the worlds can do this? It seems that the rumor is true. You will not be able to break through the realm of quasi-immortal emperor in this life. Zhou saw Lu Wuodao, and his eyes seemed a little sad. There was a look of vicissitudes on his body, as if he had met Lu Wuodao before. Your former enemy has fallen, why should you stand on the side of the underworld? You talk too much. The man in black raised his eyes and took a step forward. The powerful aura was overwhelming, sweeping across the 9 heavens and 10 earth, and all the stars were trembling. A green gold jade umbrella opened above his head, and thousands of divine lights fell down, like a waterfall. The same, boundless. It was a quasi-immortal emperor weapon. Weapons that are rarely seen on weekdays, but 3 of them have appeared today. You are no match for me. Zhou was silent for a moment and said slowly. He said in a deep voice the reason why the God Emperor did this back then was because of his own difficulties. Otherwise, the underworld today will only be more terrifying. You've blocked my way forward, and you still want me to help you. Ridiculous. On the face of the man in black, there was a rare fluctuation of expression. It was an angry emotion that could burn down the 9th heaven. With his qualifications, he could have become a quasi-immortal emperor long ago. But because the way forward is cut off, until today, he is still trapped in the realm of the immortal king, which makes him very unwilling and wants to create a way forward by himself. Unfortunately, he lacks luck, and he has tried several times, but he can't find it at all. Clue. Back then, all the heavens and all realms failed once. Today, all heavens and all realms are destined to fail again. There is no second way to go. The man in black took a step forward again. Just one kick. His thin body seemed to have reached the limit that the world could bear. The whole dark world was shaken, and countless huge cracks opened. The stars in the sky, even more, collapsed one after another. The extremely terrifying aura made countless people unable to breathe. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 656. What? Lu Wudeo's words were spoken openly and openly without any cover-up. The immortal king in the distance may not have heard it yet. But Lu Qinghong and King Xian nearby, as well as Lu Qingyu not far away, heard them clearly. Chu, the three of them almost thought they heard wrongly. In the past, during the battle between the underworld and the heavens, all the realms, lost? How can this be? Could it be that? Over the past countless years, all the worlds and billions of living beings have lived in lies? Lu Wudeo's casual words almost subverted everyone's three views. You must know that people like Lu Qinghong grew up listening to the legends of ancient wars. More importantly, the Lu family is the beneficiary of the victorious side in the world. How could he become a loser in the blink of an eye? If they failed, why didn't the underworld settle accounts with them? Then, all heavens and all realms almost broke through the demon realm. You can't say that this is fake, right? This battle seems inevitable. Zhou Qi was helpless. Let's make a quick decision. Lu Wudeo said indifferently. Several quasi-immortal emperors, a combination of thoughts. I also want to see them, to see how capable you are, and whether you can still reproduce their style back then. Zhou Qi is a special creature. He should not exist in the world, but the obsession of the quasi-immortal emperor is too strong. Even if the obsessions are combined, he still creates such a powerful creature. As long as he does not touch it, can be said that Zhou Qi has no opponent in the quasi-immortal emperor. Because he has the insights of several quasi-immortal emperors, which is equivalent to several quasi-immortal emperors put together. The only difference is that he can only exert the power of the immortal king. Strength. But even this is very terrifying. The knowledge of the quasi-immortal emperor is not something ordinary people can possess. Even Lu Wudeo is inferior to Zhou Qi. If you fight with me, he will have no control. If he summons the Lord of the Underworld to return, all the heavens and worlds will be reduced to ruins, and all spirits will be gone, and the way of heaven will not exist. Zhou Qi let out a long sigh and wanted to persuade Lu Wudeo to stand on his side. Now, the immortal emperor has not come out, and the quasi-immortal emperor has escaped. The immortal king is the top combat power, and Lu Wudeo's strength is comparable to that of a quasi-immortal emperor. If he supports it, is hard to predict the outcome of the future for all the heavens and all the realms. As long as we can stop the plan of the Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory and prevent the return of the Lord of the Underworld, everything can still be rewritten. Billions of years ago, all the heavens and all the realms were indeed defeated. Others don't know it, but Zhou Qi knows it. But as long as they win this time, they can be considered as comforting to countless predecessors and sages. All spirits. The way of heaven. Ah! Lu Wudeo sneered, the way of heaven is so unfair. The original disaster back then was not as good as mine in terms of strength, talent, and character. How could he be so virtuous and able to take the last step? As for Wanling, when the divine emperor of Shenting in the past cut off his path to cultivation, did he ever consider that I was also a member of Wanling? The road ahead is cut off, and I have been cultivating for hundreds of millions of years without making any progress. Who can understand how I feel? When Zhou Qi heard this, he frowned and explained. The God Emperor did this to prevent the underworld from continuing to grow, and because of this, the ruler of the underworld was forced to leave the heavens and the worlds, giving the heavens and worlds a chance to breathe. If it weren't for the God Emperor, the outcome of today's world would be unimaginable. That's just wishful thinking on your part. In the cold universe. Lu Wudeo's voice echoed throughout the world, with unforgettable hatred in it. In the world of cultivation, cutting off a person's path is inherently sworn in the world, not to mention that someone like him is only one step away. He stepped into the realm of quasi-immortal emperor. However, he was blocked from the door by others. If the god emperor hadn't intervened, he would at least be a quasi-immortal emperor now. As for the underworld, what does that have to do with him? Billions of years ago, he didn't mind standing on the side of the underworld. Billions of years later, he doesn't care about his position even more, as long as he can get closer. Even if all the people are buried, he doesn't care at all. In his eyes, the creatures of all races are not worthy of one of his own realm breakthroughs. At the moment, only by letting the Lord of the Underworld who left all the worlds return can he make up for the broken path forward. In order to achieve this goal, he did not hesitate to break out. Continue to conquer the world. Fight. Only by removing these obstacles from you can the plan be implemented perfectly. As soon as the words fell, Lu Wudeo's eyes were split for eternity, and a huge wave rushed up behind him. It was extremely terrifying and shattered the boundless void. A black long knife revealed half of the shadow in the void. But it was only half. The phantom still completely shattered the endless stars, and waves of innate essence surged towards here. Many immortal kings were drained of their bodies because they were unable to move, let alone resist. The essence and blood turned into powder and spread on the ground. He didn't even let out a scream until he died. Evil blade. Jochi recognized the name of the weapon and said in a cold voice, "You still keep what the Lord of the Underworld gave you." The grade of this weapon is difficult to define. It was refined by the master of the Underworld in the past. Although it is not an immortal emperor weapon, it is beyond the first line of quasi-immortal emperor weapons. Its power is very terrifying. Now it is controlled by Lu Wudeo, and the two complement each other. The strength is close to that of the powerful quasi-immortal emperor. Even a true powerful quasi-immortal emperor cannot defeat Lu Wudeo in a short time. This object is unknown and may kill its owner. Jochi looked at the tragic images around him and couldn't help but remind him aloud. You don't have to worry about it. Kill. A soft drink. A monstrous black aura rushed up, covering the sky and the earth. The sword light cut through the chaos, distorting time, and everything became blurred. It was as if the sky and the earth were crowded with sword lights. Clang. Lu Wudeo held the handle of the knife and rushed out. The evil blade burst out with supreme power. A buzzing sound resounded throughout the universe and struck Jochi Lai. This blow directly caused the entire chaos to explode. Split into two. The boundless mist of chaos has been completely dispersed, making it difficult to close up. If you have a deep obsession, you will reap the consequences sooner or later. Jochi said coldly. He stepped on the cauldron, stretched out his hand to hold it in the air, and half a jade ruler appeared in his hand. This was also a quasi-immortal emperor weapon, with terrifying power. As soon as it appeared, it suppressed the heaven and earth. Sonorous. There was a loud noise. A large area of the world collapsed. There were only two blurry figures, intersecting rapidly, bursting out endless power, which made people frightened. Lu Wudeo faced off against Jochi. This was the first and second place on the list of immortal kings. A battle between the two. It is destined to go down in history. As soon as the two of them fought, it entered a fierce battle. The collision between the Jade Ruler and the evil blade illuminated the whole world and penetrated the universe. The terrifying the aftermath was so vast that it spread in all directions. I don't know how many people were affected. Very far away. Many immortal kings, even if they couldn't move, couldn't help but looked over here, trying to see clearly what was happening on the battlefield. Every detail. That is, Lu Wudeo. In the Lu clan, the seventh ancestor looked up at the terrifying fluctuations in the sky and murmured. If nothing else, it would be Lu Wuodeo. The second ancestor spoke. Both of them had experienced the battle in the underworld, and they knew a little bit about Lu Wuodeo's aura. Now that they saw Lu Wuodeo again, they were extremely shocked. Lu Wuodeo took action, so who was the person fighting him? This smell is very familiar to me, yet it feels so strange. It's strange. The seventh ancestor murmured to himself. He seemed to sense the aura of a certain immortal emperor's technique from this person, but the question was, since it was the aura of a quasi-immortal emperor, how could it be weak? Qinghong had just chased Lu Qingyu to the top of the Tianzu. Could it be that he ran into Lu Wuodeo? The seventh ancestor seemed to have thought of something and said in a low voice. Just now, he and others were still fighting. Suddenly, a majestic pressure fell from the sky and suppressed everyone to the ground. Since that pressure was uploaded from the sky, come on, think about it, the pressure above the Tianzu is even more terrifying. Currently Lu Wuodeo is taking action above, aren't Lu Qinghong and others at the center of the battlefield? Qinghong is powerful and should be able to protect himself. The second ancestor said softly. To be honest, in his heart, he wasn't too sure. If he encountered a figure like Lu Wuodeo, an ordinary immortal king would have lost his qualifications for a battle. Even if Lu Qinghong meets Lu Wuodeo, he has no chance of winning. Lu Wuodeo. God Emperor Bu also looked at the void. He was different from others. The other immortal kings were all suppressed to the ground. He could barely remain standing. There are only a few terrifying people who can fight with it, right? Lord of Hanging City? Or Li Changkong? Or is it the mysterious Zhou beggar? On the list of immortal kings, there are probably only a few people in the top 10 who are qualified to be Lu Wuodeo's opponents. But most of the top 10 are humans, strong men from the underworld. These people will not fight against Lu Wuodeo. Apart from these people, the rest there are not many left. The borderland of Tianyuan realm is deserted. On a star floating outside the territory, a white-haired old man with a stooped figure stood on it. He looked towards the direction of the dark world and helplessly let out a long sigh. After all, he still stood on the opposite side of the world. The old man shook his head helplessly. He withdrew his gaze, raised his steps, and walked slowly towards Tianyuan realm. Although the pace was slow, each step was thousands of miles away. Not long after, the great wasteland city was already in sight in the distance. Although the dark world has become a mess, but it cannot affect Dawang City at all. At this moment, the number of people in Dawang City has not decreased, but has increased. Some time ago, all the people who came here were the powerful immortal kings. Now those who come here are all the descendants of the powerful immortal kings. After all, back then, Yang Kaiu, the 9 Nether Holy Land, had used remote control methods. There was no reason why they, the immortal kings, could not inquire about it, and now they are all following the same example. Once he encounters if there is any danger, the younger generation can immediately enter the Tianji building and ask the owner of the Tianji building if there is any way to crack it. In this way, the Tianji points in Li Yun's hand that have just been consumed will increase at a speed visible to the naked eye. Tianji Tower. The old man strolled down the street. His figure was like a ghost, leaving no trace, passing through everyone's body without touching anyone. He stood in front of the Tianji Tower and looked at the plaque above carefully. Around him, there was already a long queue. Now, in the dark world, great changes have occurred, unknown pressure has descended, and Lu Wuodeo has appeared, making every immortal king panic-stricken. He kept urging his juniors to enter the Tianji Tower immediately. However, only one person, or representative of a force, can enter the Tianji building at a time. This greatly slows down the speed at which they obtain information. At this time, many people had begun to look for acquaintances and entered the Tianji Tower together. In this way, more people can enter. Of course, The disadvantage is that the information obtained by one person is almost shared by everyone else. I hope there can be the news I want in Tianji Tower, otherwise, I can't change anything with my old bones. There was some sadness in the old man's old eyes. He looked at the door of Tianji Tower. When his eyes fell, a person happened to come out from inside. Without any hesitation, he stepped into it. And in the back, the people who had just lined up were about to enter the Tianji building, but were suddenly blocked from the outside world by an invisible wall and unable to enter. What happened? This person is confused. He is very familiar with this situation. This is Tianji Tower. Someone has already entered. But the problem is that the person who just came out clearly did not see anyone else going in. Since no one has entered, how will it suddenly block him? This person is confused. No matter what, he can't figure out what happened. What? And in the Tianji Tower, the old man who just came in, after seeing the back of Qingyi in front of him, his eyes were blank for a moment, but he soon regained his clarity. Without any hesitation, he cupped his hands tremblingly and said in a hoarse voice, "The old man Li Changfeng has met the senior master of Tianji. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning." Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 657. Li Changfeng. Li Yun turned around, looked at the old man up and down, and said softly, "Sit down. The old man is a sinner in all heavens and all realms. He has a mere name and is not worthy of mentioning." The old man said with a wry smile, "Being ninth on the immortal king list, is it considered a cheap name?" Li Yun looked at the old man and said lightly, "The three words Li Changfeng are nothing in the Tianyuan world. Before the immortal king list came out, no one had probably heard of the three words Li Changfeng. Of course, heavy famous people don't count. But in the world of gods or immortals, the three words Li Changfeng are like thunder. In addition to Li Changfeng's terrifying strength, more importantly, he cultivated Lu Wuodao, a monster-like figure. Although Li Changfeng he did not accept Lu Wuodao as his disciple. However, most of Lu Wuodao's strength in the first half of his life was taught by Li Changfeng. This is an indisputable fact. If Lu Wuodao had not fallen to the underworld, then it can be said that Li Changfeng would have trained a genius like Lu Wuodao in this life. The most proud thing. It's a pity that Lu Wuodao fell to the underworld. He became the enemy of all heavens and all realms, and even personally killed countless immortal kings from all heavens and all realms. This time, Lu Wuodao became a sinner in the world. And Li Changfeng, who personally trained Lu Wuodao, was accused by thousands of people. He wanted to suppress Lu Wuodao personally, but unfortunately, his strength did not allow it. If Lu Wuodao hadn't thought of his old feelings in the past, it is estimated that he will not even leave his body behind now. I am a sinner in all heavens and all realms, so why don't I have a bad name? Li Changfeng said in a hoarse voice. It seems that you blame all Lu Wuodao's actions on yourself. Li Yun took a deep look at Li Changfeng and said lightly. Based on the strength of the seniors, one should know that Lu Wuodao was taught by Lao Chan. If Lao Chan had ignored him back then, perhaps everything would not be as it is today. Li Changfeng said in a low voice. Back then, Lu Wuodao and the young immortal Emperor Yuanhui were old enemies. The only difference was that Lu Wuodao rose from a humble beginning. And immortal Emperor Yuanhui was born in an ancient. The family has an extremely deep foundation. But that's it. Lu Wuodao can still rise against the odds and compete with immortal Emperor Yuanhui. But what people didn't expect is that immortal Emperor Yuanhui was defeated in a decisive battle with Lu Wuodao. But behind the scenes, a strong man took action. By mistake, Lu Wuodao not only did not die, but also met Li Changfeng. From then on, Lu Wudeo's invincible mode was launched. He defeated all powerful enemies along the way, which is called the protagonist template. Just when everyone thought that Lu Wudeo was going to become the quasi-immortal emperor of this era, the Yuanhui immortal emperor came back again and became the quasi-immortal emperor one step ahead of Lu Wudeo. This made Lu Wudeo unable to accept it in his heart. That would be fine if that were the case, but immortal emperor Yuanhui knew Lu Wudeo's potential well, so he wanted to strangle him at the peak of the immortal king. Almost every time Lu Wudeo was about to break through, Emperor Yuanhui could always intervene. 1 to 2 times. Lu Wudeo was completely blackened. Unable to become a quasi-immortal emperor by normal means, he began to find another way, and ended up encountering the underworld sweeping the heavens. At that time, the Yuanhui immortal emperor still had some sense of justice deep in his heart, thinking he wanted to make some contributions to the heavens and the world, so he did not hesitate to start a war with the underworld. And Lu Wudeo immediately joined the underworld. He stood on the opposite side of the immortal emperor Yuanhui. In the past, the underworld swept through all the worlds. If there was one more Lu Wudeo or one less Lu Wudeo, the outcome would not change. Li Yun said in a faint voice. The strongest person in the underworld is the master of the underworld. No matter how amazing Lu Wudeo is, it is just the icing on the cake at best. This old man also understands this, but without Lu Wudeo, so many immortal kings would not have fallen in all the worlds. Li Changfeng said in a deep voice. Ah! Li Yun glanced at Li Changfeng's system panel in front of him, and said slowly, those who deserve to die are destined not to live, and will only die in another way. And everything you know now may not be the truth. I already understand this. Li Changfeng nodded. Although he did not go to that dark world, he had some knowledge of everything that happened in the world, because every immortal king who entered the world felt something was wrong. Especially those who had experienced the underworld. The feeling becomes even stronger when fighting against the immortal king. Aren't you curious about the truth back then? Li Yun said jokingly. It doesn't matter anymore. Li Changfeng shook his head. Seeing this, Li Yun sighed in his heart. He had known for a long time that Li Changfeng didn't care much about everything back then. He tested it today and found that it was indeed the case. The only person he cares about is probably Lu Wudeo. It seems that the purpose of your coming to Tianji Tower today is just to find a way to get rid of Lu Wudeo here. Li Yun picked up the teacup next to him, took a sip, and said meaningfully. Nothing can be hidden from Tianji Tower. Li Changfeng did not deny it, but admitted it straightforwardly. The other party claimed to be able to deduce the secrets of heaven. Knowing his own thoughts, it does not seem to be unacceptable. What's more important is that the owner of the secret building opposite is a quasi-immortal emperor. A strong man can see through his own mind. Is it difficult? This is a very reasonable thing. Some things arise due to old age and will naturally perish due to old age. Li Changfeng said softly, as if he was telling a trivial matter. Your strength ranks 9th on the list of immortal kings, but you should know that although the difference between you and Lu Wudeo is only 7 places, you will never be able to defeat Lu Wudeo relying on your personal strength. Li Yun said. This old man understands this. It is for this reason that he comes to Tianji Tower. I wonder if the senior owner of Tianji Tower can help him. Li Changfeng looked at Li Yun's face and said again, as long as I can make atonement for my sins, I can pay any price. As he said that, he took off the only storage ring on his finger and placed it in front of Li Yun. I have heard a little about the rules of the senior poster. I don't know how much the question I just asked is worth, but all of my belongings are in this ring. If the price is enough, I would like to ask senior to give me some advice. Li Changfeng's meaning was very obvious. He directly showed his cards. He took out everything he could at once, including his cultivation techniques and his own two Immortal King weapons. Nothing was left. Right now what Li Changfeng still has, apart from his peak Immortal King level cultivation, is nothing else. Not even a single spiritual stone. You are very sincere. Li Yun took a deep look at Li Changfeng and said slowly. Before that, many people would spend a huge price for a piece of news, but so far, he is the only one like Li Changfeng. From this point on, it can also be seen that Li Changfeng wants to completely solve the scourge of Lu Wuodao with the intention of atonement. At present, everyone knows that with Lu Wuodao's talent, as long as his cultivation path is restored, he is destined to become a quasi-immortal emperor. Everyone knows that the greater the strength, the greater the harm. I don't know, senior, can you? Li Changfeng's eyes lit up and he asked eagerly. But before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Li Yun. He shook his head slightly and said softly, the price you paid is still a little short of this. Li Changfeng was speechless. His face suddenly darkened. He understood that Lu Wuodao was too powerful. Even if the opponent was taught by him, Lu Wuodao was already better than his master. With his own strength, it is impossible for him to be Lu Wuodao's opponent. Not to mention, help all the worlds to suppress the other party. Although he really wanted to suppress Lu Wuodao completely, he could no longer pay any price at the moment. If nothing else happened, he was destined to return empty-handed today. But the next second, Li Yun spoke again. But nothing is absolute. I have another way to give it to you, but you need to be mentally prepared. Any solution? Li Changfeng asked. At this moment, his old eyes shone with the brilliance of hope. Don't rush to ask for a solution. Once you do what I'm going to tell you next, although you can pull Lu Wuodao to die together, you will. Li Yun paused and said slowly. There is no recovery. These 4 words are too heavy for cultivators. They have practiced for countless years and reached the stage of Immortal King. They could live the same life as heaven and earth, and shine with the sun and moon. Who is willing to let themselves be undone? Eternal catastrophe. It was almost equivalent to losing his soul. There was no chance of starting over again. Clinker. Li Changfeng did not hesitate at all. He laughed loudly, and infinite pride burst out from his old body. He said in a deep voice, I am no longer as old as my predecessors. I have lived foolishly for several epochs. Not only have I achieved nothing, but I have also committed countless sins. Now that I can wash away my sins, this life is considered to be in vain. Even if there is no recovery, so what? This life is enough. Good. Li Yun didn't say anything more and nodded silently. He turned his palm over and a jade slip appeared in his palm. He handed it to Li Changfeng and said, in this jade slip, there is a secret method called Red Lotus Karmic Fire. It does not belong to this world, but it needs to be led by the soul to lead this fire across the world. Once caught in the fire, the only possibility for the Immortal King to perish is. Oh? Li Changfeng raised his eyebrows, took the jade slip tremblingly, took a careful look at the contents, and after keeping it in mind, he asked again. Dare I ask the seniors, this method may threaten the quasi-immortal emperor, or the powerful immortal emperor. Ah! Li Yun chuckled lightly and said, then it depends on your ability. If it is a flame, it may cause some trouble to the immortal emperor, but it will not be in danger of falling. But if the sky is filled with fire and sea. Talk about this. Li Yun did not continue. But Li Changfeng almost understood. Although Li Yun didn't tell him directly, he understood a little bit through a few words. This flame called Red Lotus Industry Fire was very terrifying. Thank you, senior, I understand. Li Changfeng put away the jade slips, cupped his hands towards Li Yun, and said with great sincerity. Li Yun waved his hand casually. The old man took his leave. Li Changfeng said. Not sent. Li Yun spat out two words lightly. Li Changfeng turned around and left. When he reached the door of Tianji building, he just stepped out with one foot, and then he seemed to remember something. He turned around and asked curiously, Road Senior said before that everything I know now may not be the truth before. I understand this. The past has become history. Whether it's true or false, it's all set in stone and cannot be changed. What about the future? This time the quasi-immortal emperor was born by chance. From the old man's perspective, it seems that it is not simple. There seems to be some hidden secrets in it, and it even involves people in the underworld. Dare I ask my predecessors, will everything that happened hundreds of millions of years ago happen again in that world today? Ah! Li Yun chuckled. He glanced at the outside world. His eyes spanned hundreds of millions of miles and landed on that dark world. After briefly glancing at the situation, he withdrew his gaze and said casually, it's over. Now, isn't it obvious enough? He is no longer interested in collecting resources for this matter, because many people have already figured it out. Although this matter arose because of the opportunity of the quasi-immortal emperor, but after the quasi-immortal emperor was born by chance and had a belonging, this matter can be solved, eliminated? It's obviously impossible. The reappearance of the people in the underworld is obviously not so simple and can be ended. One party must lose and be completely liquidated. Only then will peace be restored in all the worlds. I dare to ask the seniors, if in that lost world, everything that happened hundreds of millions of years ago would be repeated. Li Changfeng pondered for a moment, his old face showed some hesitation, as if he was thinking about whether he should ask, but not long after, he made up his mind and asked. I wonder who will win this time and who will lose. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 658. This time? Li Yunro smiled meaningfully and said meaningfully, do you know that this news is valuable? Not to mention you, even if a quasi-immortal emperor were standing here, he probably wouldn't be able to pay the price. It's about the fate of all the worlds and billions of creatures. Before the matter comes to an end, almost no one can say it clearly. Li Changfeng pursed his lips, and there was a hint of helplessness on his old face. He knew. Some things are not something he can ask for. He cupped his hands and said in a hoarse voice, it's because I'm too old to be abrupt. Before he asked the question, he had already guessed that the senior Tianji building owner would not easily tell him the outcome of the matter, but now he got a positive answer. It was inevitable that he felt a little disappointed. He turned around lonely, and when he was about to get up, Li Yun's voice came faintly. Return from the underworld, unite all realms. That's all I've said. Li Yun suddenly spoke, which shocked Li Changfeng. He suddenly turned around, his eyes shone with dazzling light, and then he respectfully bowed to the ground. Thanks for the advice, senior. Li Yun nodded casually, then waved his palm and said lightly, go ahead. The juniors resigned. Li Changfeng walked backwards and left the Tianji building. After he came out, he was hit by the cold wind, which made him sober. The last 8 words spoken by the owner of the Tianji building rang in his mind. His mood suddenly became heavy. Return from the underworld, unite all realms. Is Senior Master Tianji telling me that the underworld will eventually rule over all the heavens and worlds and control hundreds of millions of living beings? Li Changfeng said with a heavy heart. This news almost made him lose his direction. Sometimes, isn't it cruel to know the future in advance? Could it be said that all the rumors coming out in that world are true? Was one of the heavens and realms the final loser? The true truth in the past has always been covered up by history. Li Changfeng stroked his head with his skinny palm and murmured to himself, why was my memory changed by someone and I didn't notice it at all? A moment later, He smiled casually, touched the jade slip in his hand, and hurried towards the dark world on that side. In his current state, he could not do more to the world. But if he could completely suppress Lu Wuodao, it would be considered a great achievement. Outside the Tianji building, the leader of the Lu clan, he stood in front of the Tianji tower. Before he could see clearly what was happening, the light curtain that had been blocking him disappeared in an instant. "What the hell?" he murmured. He was suddenly blocked from entering, but now he can go in again? Could it be that someone entered the Tianji tower one step ahead of him when he didn't know it? But who can do this? At least it must be an immortal king, right? At this time, the immortal kings in all the worlds should be competing for the opportunity to be the quasi-immortal emperor. Who has the leisure to come to the Tianji tower at this time? He couldn't think of it. Answer. After pondering for a while, he gave the people behind him a wink and walked into the Tianji building. After entering the Tianji building, a group of them all bowed and bowed. "Juniors, wait, meet the senior master of Tianji building." No need to be polite. Li Yun raised his eyes and glanced at such a group of people, and laughed in his heart. There were so many people coming this time, and several forces were united together. The people among them, led by the Lu family, came in together. Tianji Tower. "Everyone, take a seat." Li Yun waved his hand, and several chairs appeared on the ground and fell behind a group of people. "Thank you, senior." A group of people thanked each other. After thanking each other, the Lu clan leader exchanged glances with the others, then stood up, took a step forward, and asked, "Senior, do you know that a new world has just appeared recently?" Li Yun raised his head, glanced at this person, and said jokingly, "You all already know this news. Do you think I know it?" Cough. The Lu clan leader was embarrassed, and he said awkwardly, "It's my fault, this junior." Just now, several ancestors in the junior's family felt extremely weird after entering that world. There seems to be a feeling of déjà vu. I wonder if seniors know where this feeling comes from. Is there any secret hidden in this world? As he said that, he took out a storage ring, placed it in front of Li Yun, and said with a smile, "This is a little thought from this junior. Senior, please don't take offense. There are so many hidden secrets." Li Yun went to the storage ring, played with it in his hand, then put it on the table again, and said casually, "Do you want to know all the secrets of that world, or a certain secret?" "What if it's all of them?" Clan Chief Lu asked cautiously. "Then these things are not valuable enough." Li Yun pushed the storage ring back. "Well." Clan leader Liu's expression froze, and then he quickly reacted. He laughed dryly and said, "In that case, let me ask some other questions." He pondered for a moment. He thought of the instructions given by the second ancestor of the Lu clan and asked, "Senior, can you tell me whether the memories of several ancestors of our Lu clan and other immortal kings in the world have been hidden as speculated? Or has it been changed?" He did not ask what the changed memory was. "I just asked if the memory has been changed. In this case, the value of the cost is much less. After all, there are too many immortal kings in the universe. Everyone has different experiences and memories. It is too unrealistic to know the memory of each immortal king. As long as you can be sure that your memory has indeed been tampered with, then the next things can change a lot. As you may have guessed, their memories have been altered." Li Yun said lightly. As he spoke, he put away the storage ring on the table, then glanced at everyone, and said meaningfully, "Not only that, even the ancient books you see are all fake." This. I heard what Li Yun said. In the Tianji building, everyone's expressions changed, and everyone looked at each other in silence, if they had heard the words of the owner of the Tianji building before. They must have scoffed. But things are different now. Many immortal kings have noticed something is wrong, and now they have received a positive reply from the owner of Tianji. There is no doubt that there is a lot of fishiness in the news of the destruction of the underworld. Maybe the Lord of the underworld is not dead. Or maybe, was it actually the God Emperor who died? It's just that this guess is so incredible that they can't believe it. This is tantamount to completely subverting the worldview of millions or even tens of millions of years in the past. Who can accept that he has suddenly become a defeated person who is kept in the dark? Senior, why is this happening? Immortal kings are all supreme beings, how could their memories be changed invisibly and not know it? Behind the Lu clan leader, a young-looking man asked doubtfully. Li Yun glanced at him and said lightly, there is a mountain higher than the mountain. Although the immortal king is strong, it is not the limit. Beyond it. There are many people from the immortal king. Just modifying a memory is nothing. In the endless river of history, you have not experienced everything, so how do you know whether the things you know are true and which things are false? What the senior said is right. Clan leader Lu nodded helplessly. He thought of his ancestors and said with a wry smile, so what if I experienced it personally? They will still be manipulated by others. I dare to ask the seniors, are there any powerful quasi-immortal emperors in the world today? This is another question. Li Yun wrote lightly. The juniors understand. Clan Chief Lu took out a storage ring again and placed it in front of Li Yun. Li Yun glanced at the storage ring and slowly uttered two words. No. Hearing these two words, everyone else frowned, with doubtful looks on their faces. Just now, the Lu clan leader was not asking about the powerful quasi-immortal emperor in the world, but about the underworld and the world. Are there any quasi-immortal emperors in all the worlds combined? Of course. This is also because they are not from the Lu family. Because of Lu Qinghong, the entire Lu family already knows that there are still a few in the dark world. Quasi-immortal emperors exist, but I don't know if they are alive or not. Therefore, the Lu clan leader asked this question. No matter whether the previous quasi-immortal emperors were dead or alive, at least there are still quasi-immortal emperors, such as Senluo Gaixi Territory Lord, or the Tianji Building Master in front of me. The Senluo Ghost Territory Lord has been confirmed. He is a genuine quasi-immortal emperor. After all, among the Lu clan, the seventh ancestor, Lu Xianchang and Lu Qinzi have all seen it with their own eyes. I won't admit my mistake. As for the owner of Tianji, no one can say for sure what his strength is. But it is generally accepted that Master Tianji is a quasi-immortal emperor who has lived for who knows how many years. But now, Master Tianji said, there is no quasi-immortal emperor in the world today. How is this possible? Could it be that neither the Senluo Ghost Territory Master nor the Tianji Building Master are quasi-immortal emperors? This is more terrifying. Because the strength of these two people is that the lowest is a quasi-immortal emperor, and the highest is an immortal emperor. Senior. Clan leader Liu's teeth were chattering at this moment, and he murmured, isn't the lord of the Senluo Ghost Territory a quasi-immortal emperor? No. Li Yun nodded. Everyone in the field felt a chill in their hearts, and only one person asked Senior Poster, the master of the Senluo Ghost Territory can't be an immortal emperor, right? You think too much. Li Yun then shook his head and said he is neither a quasi-immortal emperor nor an immortal emperor. You can rest assured on this. That's good. Everyone else breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he is not an immortal emperor, that is enough. Isn't the only worry now that the master of Senluo Ghost Territory is stronger than the quasi-immortal emperor? That senior, your strength, isn't it? At this time, someone spoke again. But before he finished speaking, he saw several almost murderous glances looking towards him. The strength of Master Tianji has always been a mystery. Now that the other party has said that there is no strong quasi-immortal emperor in the world, doesn't it also shatter the rumor in disguise? Prove that he himself is not a quasi-immortal emperor? Certainly. Because these words will definitely arouse the curiosity of many people. But what I never expected was that someone would actually ask, isn't this looking for death? Don't be nervous. Li Yun waved his hand and said, this is not a big deal. As long as you can afford the price, what if I tell you? Li Yun doesn't take his own strength seriously. If someone wants to know, it's not impossible for him to tell them. If someone is willing to pay, why wouldn't he do it? It's just a realm. He's just an immortal emperor. The junior is being reckless. Senior, please don't blame me. The person who just spoke shuddered when he heard these words. At this time, even if he was given 10 courages, he would not dare to ask. In addition to being afraid of Li Yun's strength, more importantly, he had no resources. Seniors and juniors still have a question. Clan Chief Lu took out a storage ring again, placed it in front of Li Yun, and asked this time, there are many secrets hidden in the world that suddenly appeared. Could it be that this opportunity to become the immortal emperor is not the most precious secret? Good. Li Yun nodded. Hearing Li Yun's words, the Lu clan leader felt a lot heavy in his heart. He had guessed this a long time ago, but now that he knows everything, he feels heavy. Is it already involved in the grievances between the heavens and the underworld in the past? Li Yun nodded again. At this moment, everyone in the Tianji Tower frowned. It was involved in the underworld. It was no longer a trivial matter. They thought that the Lord of the Senluo ghost territory had come forward. The gaffe had begun to gradually get out of control. From the current point of view, if the world and the underworld start a war again, from the perspective of the seniors, which side has a higher winning rate? Clan leader Lu asked weakly. Ah. Li Yun chuckled and said lightly, isn't it obvious, all the heavens and realms have their own agendas and cannot even cooperate with each other. How can we win? So, Senior is optimistic about the underworld. If not? Li Yun asked back. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 659. If the underworld unified all heavens and all realms, wouldn't it be? Chief Lu did not continue. But there's another implication. It's not difficult to understand. In their view, the underworld is synonymous with darkness, killing, and cruelty. With the underworld above their heads, how can they and others benefit from it? Maybe. The immortal king who could have lived forever was forced to bear the name of having exhausted his lifespan by the underworld. As for whether the lifespan has been exhausted, then only the underworld has the final say. People who govern the heavens say that your lifespan is over, that means your lifespan is over. As for why you are still alive, it is too simple, just kill it. If you kill, doesn't it mean that your lifespan has been exhausted? What is even more terrifying is that the underworld follows the path of reincarnation. After a person dies, he is still at the mercy of the underworld. It is not certain whether the next generation will be reincarnated as a human being. Just thinking about this makes these high-ranking people shudder. Who can accept that one person can dominate one side in one life and then be reduced to a bird, beast, insect, or fish in the next? Senior, do you have a way to prevent this from happening? Someone asked quickly. Have. Li Yun did not deny it, nodded casually, and then said, but the price, I'm afraid you won't be able to accept it. At what cost? Clan Chief Lu asked. Resource. Li Yun spat out this word lightly. Although it was not heavy, it reached the ears of everyone present, and made their faces very solemn. The master of Tianji is already the richest person in the world. What he needs, how can it be that the resources are idle? It is estimated that moving the entire God realm here will not be able to satisfy the appetite of the owner of Tianji. When thinking of this, everyone's heart sank. You don't need to be too depressed. At this time, Li Yun spoke again. As soon as these words came out, everyone who was originally lonely once again ignited a glimmer of hope. Could the seniors be willing to help? Someone asked in surprise. Just now, the senior Tianji building master said that there are no quasi-immortal emperors in the world. What does this mean? It represents the strength of the seniors, not just the quasi-immortal emperors. Maybe higher. As for whether he is an immortal king, no one has ever thought about this. If he is an immortal king, there are many immortal kings who come to Tianji Tower. How can they not see the problem? Able to know the existence of the past and future. The minimum is a quasi-immortal emperor, or even an immortal emperor. This moment, Li Yun has invisibly risen to a higher level in everyone's hearts. Reached an unprecedented height. You think too much. Li Yun glanced at the speaker and said calmly. This sentence was like a basin of cold water poured on the head, which instantly made everyone wake up. Although I won't help you, I can tell you something. Li Yun glanced at everyone and said slowly, soon, the underworld will come and all realms will be unified. I have already told Li Changfeng about this matter. It doesn't matter if I tell a few more people now. Anyway, sooner or later it will spread throughout the world. What? I just heard that the master of Tianji wanted to give them a piece of news for nothing. They were still very new, but after hearing the content, they couldn't keep calm. The underworld has come, and all realms have been unified. From a literal meaning, isn't this the plan of the underworld? Do you rule the heavens? If this sentence comes from someone else's mouth, the Lu clan leader will definitely be rude and beat the other person into a bloody mist on the spot. But when it comes from the mouth of the Tianji building owner, he can't refute it. Because what the master of Tianji said is a golden rule, and it will definitely come true in the future. He said that the underworld will come, and the underworld will definitely come. If he said that the world will be unified, then it will definitely be unified. There is no second a possibility. Are all the worlds over? Clan Chief Liu's eyes lost color, as if his soul had been extracted from his whole body. He stood there blankly, muttering to himself. Senior, is there no glimmer of hope? Even if it's just a front line, that's fine. In the dark world. I don't know how much time has passed. On the sky. The storm is raging. Terrifying fluctuations swept across all directions. Two supreme figures shattered countless stars with every movement of their hands, and the boundless chaos was shattered. Star fields one after another extinguished in the void. The gap between first and second in the Immortal King list is really too small. Without help from outsiders, even Zhou Qi can win in the end. That must be a tragic victory. After all, Lu Wudao is not an easy person. A centipede insect, dead but not stiff, the back UPS left by the few quasi-immortal emperors do have some abilities, but in the final analysis, that's all. The Lord of Senluo Ghost Territory raised his eyes and glanced at the battle situation in the sky, and then stopped paying attention. He glanced at the void and said indifferently. You two stay here and don't let anyone step into the palace. After that, he raised his feet and walked towards the palace. Yes. Yes. Two completely different voices came vaguely. One was cold and ruthless, and the other was thick and heavy. They belonged to two supremely powerful people. Although there was no trace, judging from the sound alone, I was afraid that the other party was not weak. Could it be that he was a warrior from the underworld in the past? Lu Qingyu looked around, with a thoughtful look in his eyes. At this time, the only person who could move freely was a person of the level of Lu Wudao or Zhou Qi. After all, even Lu Qinghong, who ranked at the top of the Immortal King list, was suppressed. It can be seen from this that if you don't step into the top 10 of the Immortal King list, or become a quasi-immortal emperor, it is almost impossible to move forward in this world. And the two people who just spoke, their status is below the master of Senluo ghost territory, they should not quasi-immortal emperor, since he is not a quasi-immortal emperor, he can only be an immortal king. Could it be the two powerful men from the underworld, Yan Yuan and Tianji? Lu Qingyu thought in his heart. These two people's rankings on the immortal king list are not low at all. They are extremely powerful and are very close to the quasi-immortal emperor. If they are not unable to break through, they and Lu Wuodao may be both quasi-immortals now. The emperor exists. Thinking of this, he glanced at the back of the Senluo ghost territory lord who had stepped into the hall and stood side by side with many powerful quasi-immortal emperors. He was very curious in his heart. What on earth is the Senluo ghost territory lord? Identity. It's just that he can command the two powerful men Yanyu and Tianji. Even Lu Wuodao will help him to a certain extent. This is very strange. You know, these three existences are very arrogant. Even the quasi-immortal emperor may not be able to order them, after all, they have been able to support them for a period of time in the hands of the quasi-immortal emperor. Especially Lu Wuodao, even the quasi-immortal emperor may not be able to kill him. If the lord of the Senluo ghost territory, just a quasi-immortal emperor would definitely not be able to make the three immortal kings on the list of powerful men obey their words. Eccentric. Lu Qingyu couldn't help but shook his head. There were too many mysteries in this for him to guess. Below the Babel pillar, several immortal kings in the Lu clan barely stood there, their faces all ugly. They were so suppressed here that they couldn't even move. It makes them feel very insecure. At this time, if an immortal king comes who can move freely, I'm afraid everyone will be destroyed here. Fortunately, until now, I have never seen the immortal king who is not under control. Even though there is Lu Wuodao above who can move freely, he is still restrained by a mysterious immortal king. Two ancestors, there is news from Tianji Tower. At this time, Lu Suanquan's voice suddenly came. Next to him, not only several immortal kings from the Lu clan, but also several other immortal kings from the gods and realms all looked over, and even several immortals from the heaven and demon realm. King. He also had a curious look on his face. The word Tianji Tower. Even the immortal king of the heavenly demon realm has not been to many, but he has heard of the reputation of Tianji Tower. They were fighting just now, and were suddenly pressured. They were suppressed together. They were very close to each other, but they couldn't make a move at all. They could only stare at each other, unable to do anything to each other. At this moment, Lu Xiancheng suddenly spoke, which naturally attracted the attention of many people. Seeing everyone looking over, Lu Suanquan's face was a little tangled. In this dark world, the suppression of spiritual consciousness is too terrifying. In ordinary times, the spiritual consciousness that is accustomed to transmitting sounds cannot be done now. He can only speak. But once if you say it, others can probably hear it. Even if the immortal king has suppressed his consciousness, his ears can hear everything within a radius of tens of millions of miles. That is not an exaggeration at all. As long as they want to listen, there will be no trouble. You can hide it from them. Explain. The second ancestor glanced at the person next to him and said in a deep voice. As long as it doesn't affect the future of the Lu family, it doesn't matter. It's time. Some news is no longer interesting if it is hidden. After all, everyone is a grasshopper on a rope. Of course, if it affects the interests of the Lu family, then it won't work. Yes. Lu Xiancheng took a look at the contents of the jade slip and said, just now, after the clan leader of our Lu clan entered the Tianji building, he learned from the senior building owner that. Talk about this. Lu Suanquan's expression suddenly became strange. What's wrong? Others were a little curious, especially Lu Qinzi who asked. Lu Xiancheng looked at the jade slips, then at his two ancestors, and said slowly, I understand, everything that happened back then was indeed not the same. Not as we know it. In all the worlds, not to mention the memory of the immortal king, even all the ancient books have been tampered with. How can it be? As soon as Lu Xiancheng finished speaking, the expression on the second ancestor's face changed drastically. My memory has also been changed. Not far away, God Emperor Bio's face was solemn. He stood with his hands behind his back and was quite calm. This was also due to his strength, which was quite tyrannical. But after he heard Lu Suanquan's words, he could not remain calm. Everyone's memories were tampered with at the same time. That's really not something ordinary people can do. Unless it's an immortal emperor. If it's like their records, the final winner is the God Emperor, then he has no reason or motive at all to tamper with memories and ancient books. Only if the Lord of the Underworld wins is there any possibility that he would do this. But the question is, why does the Lord of the Underworld do this? Since he has won, wouldn't it be great if he directly rules the heavens? Why do you have to spend so much effort to reverse the ending? Everyone's memories are false, and everything we know now is not true. Lu Suanquan's palm holding the jade slip trembled slightly, and his whole body seemed to be deflated. He looked at the content below the jade slip and said with a wry smile. Senior Master Tianji also said that there is no strong quasi-immortal emperor in all the worlds today. Neither the Senior Master of Tianji Building nor the Master of Senluo Ghost Territory are quasi-immortal emperors, and outsiders have no way of knowing their specific strength. As soon as these words came out, many people who heard the news fell into silence. After a long time, God Emperor Bio said in a deep voice, the Lord of Senluo Ghost Territory is definitely not an immortal emperor. This is my intuition. As for the senior Tianji poster, according to past calculations, the owner of Tianji will not target without reason. Since he said this, he may be hinting that his strength is not what the outside world speculates. Just a quasi-immortal emperor. If he were the immortal emperor, the world might not be so difficult. Since there is no strong quasi-immortal emperor in all the worlds, it is still unclear who will win and who will lose this time. As long as we get the opportunity to become the quasi-immortal emperor. After cultivating a quasi-immortal emperor, the outcome between the heavens and the underworld is still uncertain. An immortal king of the god realm said in surprise. At first, they were a little worried about the Lord of the Senluo Ghost Territory, but now the Master of the Tianji Tower has clearly told them that there is not even a quasi-immortal emperor in all the worlds. Wouldn't that be much easier to handle? As long as a quasi-immortal emperor appears, victory can be directly determined. Where is the immortal emperor? God Emperor Biu asked suddenly. There shouldn't be one, right? The immortal king who just spoke murmured. Senior Tianji Luzu said the last 8 words. Lu Xiancheng glanced at the jade slips and said with a pale face. Those 8 words. The 7th patriarch asked. The underworld has descended, and all realms have become one. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 660. Senior, do you want to tell us something when you say these 8 words? The heart of Emperor Bio sank for no reason. From these 8 words, he seemed to see the cruel scene of the world turning into ruins and hundreds of millions of creatures falling. The underworld is coming. The 7th patriarch repeated these 4 words in his mouth, with a very ugly look on his face. He said softly, Senior has actually made it very clear. Soon after, I am afraid that the underworld will dominate the world. And all the worlds in the world may not be able to escape their misfortune. Apart from the Lord of the Underworld, who else has such ability who can lead the underworld to make a comeback? Doesn't this mean that the former ruler of the underworld is not dead at all? The eyes of God Emperor Bio opened and closed, and a cold light burst out, splitting the void, and the chilling auras swept across the sky and the earth, almost freezing people's souls. What has been tampered with in my memory? He felt that what he had forgotten might be the key to everything today. It must contain the huge secret of the underworld. No matter what has been tampered with, you will inevitably be defeated together. Not far away, a strong man from the demon world sneered. Although they were suppressed, they didn't panic at all deep in their hearts. Because they could feel that in the violent fluctuations above, one of the people was Lu Wudeo. Since Lu Wudeo took action now, how could the other powerful people on the Immortal King list not show up? You know. Among the top 10 on the Immortal King list, the underworld powerhouses account for the vast majority. As long as these people all come forward, even Zhou Qi, who is number 1 on the list, standing on the side of the heavens and worlds, there is only one way to fall. After all, there is also a Senluo ghost territory lord on their side. That is a powerful quasi-immortal emperor. Although the master of Tianji said, Senluo ghost territory, the territory lord is not a quasi-immortal emperor, but it is undeniable that the Senluo ghost territory lord has the combat power of a quasi-immortal emperor. With this alone, he can dominate the world. That's right. There were other powerful men from the demon realm next to them, and they sneered disdainfully. Even the master of Tianji has predicted that the underworld will come and all realms will be unified. What are you going to struggle with? Maybe, after the underworld comes, the master of Tianji will also join the underworld. An immortal king from the heavenly demon realm raised his eyebrows slightly and said jokingly. After all, the master of Tianji can see into the secrets of heaven. He must have known in advance that the underworld is invincible. Therefore, he said this because he wanted to tell you in advance what to do next. Those who know the current affairs are heroes. It is still too late for you to abandon the darkness and turn to the light. Compared with the immortal king from the demon realm, all heavens and realms are here. Whether it was the immortal king of the god realm, the immortal king of the immortal realm, or the powerful men from other worlds, they were all silent, with a thoughtful look on their faces. Some people even had expressions of emotion on their faces. Obviously. Some of them, after learning about the Tianji Tower, began to consider whether to join the underworld. At least, from the current point of view, the heavens and the world have no chance of winning. Although they have a large number of immortal kings, they cannot withstand the top combat power and they are all in the underworld. A single Senluo ghost territory lord can conquer all realms. Even if they rush forward, their lives will be in vain. More importantly, there is another strong man, the master of Tianji, who still has no intention of joining the war. On the other hand, there is another master of the underworld whose life and death are unknown. It has reached this point now. Thinking of their tampered memories, many people have already made up their minds. The Lord of the underworld must not be dead. He might be hiding somewhere, looking for a way to break through. Wait until he comes back. Maybe. Even the immortal emperor is not his ultimate strength. He may have surpassed the immortal emperor and reached an unprecedented level. What is light and what is dark? A faint voice came from the end of the sky. I could see. Infinite brilliance bloomed, illuminating the sky and the earth. No one could look directly at it. It was like a scorching sun, rising slowly and dispersing the boundless darkness. In the middle, a skeleton as white as jade slowly walked over. This man seemed to have died long ago, with only a set of withered bones left, but he exuded a powerful aura, like a supreme immortal king, looking down at the sky. Underground. He strode forward, with a long silver-white river under his feet, running through the entire world, just like the Emperor of Heaven on patrol. I am originally in the light, so how can I abandon the darkness and cast myself into the light? The withered mandible opened and closed, and his words echoed between heaven and earth. His voice was very vicissitudes of life, and he looked up at the Optimus Prime in the distance. His whole body was filled with loneliness and nostalgia, as if his relatives and friends were buried here. Who are you? From the heavenly demon realm. King Ying spoke. He was very familiar with the aura of the person in front of him, but for a moment, he couldn't remember where he had seen him. All he knew was that this person should be from the heavenly demon realm. The immortal king. The strength is very likely to be above his own. As for the immortal king on the immortal king list, he is not sure. After all, there are more than 30 immortal kings in front of him. As if dry bones had swept away King Ying, his empty eye sockets were filled with a world-shaking look. He said calmly, it's just the undead people who deserve to be damned. Who should die but not yet die? Prince. Ying narrowed his eyes. He looked at the skeleton in the sky and said in a deep voice, are you from the divine court in the past? Good. Withered Bones nodded without any intention of denying it. Nangong Yun. God Emperor Biu lost his voice. On the list of immortal kings. Among the immortal kings who are clearly considered to be members of the divine court, Nangong Yun is the only one. Although the others belong to the all heavens and worlds, almost none of them have joined the divine court. Emperor Biu. Withered Bones turned his head and took a deep look at God Emperor Biu. There was some sadness in his eyes, and he said lightly, countless years later, there are still old friends. It seems that after the war, things were not as I thought. It turns out you are really a fellow Taoist. How could you become like this? Fellow Taoist, do you know how the divine court is doing now? Where is the senior God Emperor now? God Emperor Biu was overjoyed. Although the man in front of him was in a bad state, he obviously knew a lot of things. It seemed that his memory had not been tampered with and he still remembered everything in the past. For them, this is a great good thing. Divine Court. Nangong Yun retracted his gaze, with an inexplicable meaning deep in his eyes. He murmured, have you all forgotten everything? Isn't this the divine court? What? Below. Whether it is Emperor Biu, the Lu family, or other immortal kings, or even the immortal kings of the demon realm, their expressions all changed drastically. This is the divine courtyard? How is it possible? The divine courtyard's home base is in the immortal realm. Ah! To this day, there are still ruins. How could it be possible that Shenting suddenly changed its base camp and came to this lost world? If this is Shenting, what are the ruins of the fairy world? Thinking about it in another dead end, the divine court is in the immortal realm, so is the immortal realm today still the immortal realm? What does fellow Taoist Nangong mean by this? The second ancestor of the Lu clan said. Fellow Taoist Lu Hung, long time no see. Nangong Yun glanced at the second ancestor, nodded slightly and said hello. Fellow Taoist know me. The second ancestor frowned. Could it be that my fellow Taoist doesn't recognize me? Nangong Yun also frowned, but then he felt relieved and nodded slightly. Yes, after the defeat of all the heavens and worlds in the past, the Lord of the Underworld must have done something to you. You don't remember me, and you should. After all, I was trapped in a void space, so I escaped disaster. Wait a moment. God Emperor Biu heard Nangong Yun's words and discovered something important. He said in a deep voice, fellow Taoist just said that the world was defeated. Instead of a big defeat in the underworld. That's right. Nangong Yun looked up at Optimus Prime in front of him, his eyes full of memories, and said in a lonely voice, it is true that all the worlds have been defeated, and they have been completely defeated. How can this be? God Emperor Biu was agitated. There were huge waves in his heart, and he couldn't calm down for a long time. Although he had guessed it just now, the fact was before his eyes. He still couldn't believe it. The world was defeated. It was still a total defeat. It's so unbelievable. It's as if God played a huge joke on them and kept them in the dark until now. It turns out we are the losers. It's ridiculous. For hundreds of millions of years, we have always thought that we are the victors, but we don't know that we are just puppets of the underworld. Senior TNG poster has actually hinted to us a long time ago, but we have never thought about this aspect. In the final analysis, we are still deceiving ourselves and others. But the question is, since the underworld was victorious, why didn't it control the heavens back then? Maybe the Lord of the underworld was also severely injured. If you say so, after such a long time, the underworld master has recovered from his injuries. For a while. I don't know how many immortal kings are depressed. There is no longer any hope for the future. Billions of years ago. There are still divine emperors in all the heavens and realms, and there are several quasi-immortal emperors to help. So many powerful people have failed, and now they don't even have a quasi-immortal emperor. How to resist? Now there is no news about the coveted opportunity of being a quasi-immortal emperor. Who knows which person this opportunity will eventually fall into? To know. There is a Senluo ghost territory master in the heavenly demon realm. If this person takes action, even if they have the guidance of the master TNG, they may not be able to successfully break through and become a quasi-immortal emperor. The thought of this. I don't know how many immortal kings have thought of joining the underworld. In the underworld, there is that underworld being who is in charge, and there are many strong men. If he joins in, he might be able to get a high position. After all, the immortal king is still very strong, and he is not a cabbage on the roadside. Is there any reason for the underworld to shut people out? So is this the truth that happened hundreds of millions of years ago? On the side of the demon realm, there are also immortal kings with expressions of sudden realization on their faces. Their memories have also been tampered with. It was only today that they discovered the truth. I don't know how many people fell into ecstasy. I still have nothing. Just do it, and suddenly I changed from the loser to the victor. Did I win? This made them very happy. The matter is a foregone conclusion, and the truth no longer matters. Prince Ying said softly. He looked at Nangong Yun above him without blinking, and said in a deep voice, since you are not dead, you should find a place to hide, but now you come here with your broken body. Do you really think you can save yourself? Although your ranking is higher than mine on the Immortal King list, your current state is too bad. Everyone present. Everyone is not a fool. From the moment Nangong Yun appeared, they had already seen that the other party was in a very bad state and was almost running out of gas. They didn't know where he was before, and they didn't know where he was. What a price it took to get here. Even if he comes, the final outcome will not change at all. At most, there will be one more set of withered bones in this world. Is it? Nangong Yun glanced at King Ying. His voice was neither sad nor happy. He spoke softly, without any ripples. If all the world falls, Nangong Yun can still save the world with one hand. He took a step forward, and fairy light burst out all over his body, like a long river exploding. It was so bright that it condensed into the supreme fairy law, causing the whole world to collapse. These lights condensed together, emitting a sonorous sound. The sound turned into billions of runes and flew in all directions, making the whole world start to shake. It seemed that, at this moment, the whole world began to recover. Stars emerged from the dark void, with countless ancient symbols engraved on them, forming a sky full of stars. They were the backhand left by the ancient divine cord. At this moment, it was completely activated by Nangong Yun. Suddenly the whole world was enveloped, and the aura of the Supreme Immortal Emperor filled the air, as if a high-altitude god was looking down on all living beings. The reason why I came back is just to finish everything that I didn't finish back then. Nangong Yun whispered. His momentum seemed to have no peak, the whole soul was burning, and the jade-white skeleton revealed the fire of the soul. It burned half of the sky, illuminating the whole world in daylight. How come? How could Shenting still have such a backup plan? King Ying's expression changed. He looked around with great solemnity. His memory was intact and he didn't remember that Shenting had such a method, but now it was completely activated by Nangong Yun. He was completely confused. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 661. Buzz. The sky and the earth are turbulent. Billions of symbols, as big as stars, are arranged in the sky in a mysterious formation, scattering thousands of divine lights, illuminating the boundless starry sky. Nangong Yu stands in the void, although he has no body, only a pair of withered bones, but the elegance of that moment is enough to overwhelm all the world. People dare not look directly. He stood there quietly, with empty eye sockets, carrying endless vicissitudes and loneliness. He took one last look this world. After today's battle, I'm afraid there will be no such world anymore. The ancient fairyland will also disappear in the long river of time. But he lowered his eyes and looked at King Ying and other immortal kings from the demon world. Then he glanced at the Optimus pillar in the distance and said softly, "If you can bury all the beings from the underworld, it will be worth it." As soon as he finished speaking, he opened his 5 jade white fingers and pressed them in the air. His palm seemed to have grasped the pivot of the whole world, and the whole world was shaking. In the dark world, the chi machine that created the world filled the air. One after another, there were cold and sharp blasts of energy. The wind spread across the sky, like a heavenly sword blowing from outside the territory, cutting the whole world into pieces. Even the immortal king was horrified when he saw this scene. What is he doing? Why do I have an uneasy feeling? An immortal king from the heavenly demon realm shouted loudly. I don't know, it seems to be some kind of ancient formation. If I guessed correctly, this is probably the formation left by the God Emperor in the past. I just don't know that after so many years, this formation still has some power left. On the side of the demon realm, an immortal king with 6 wings on his back said in a deep voice. He opened and closed his eyes and looked up at the void. His eyes were full of solemnity. He felt a trace of ancient and wildness in this formation. Breath. As if it existed before the beginning of the world. Clang. 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 Strong winds as black as ink surged up, making the sound of gold and iron. The apparently invisible and formless winds, at this moment, seemed to be made of divine gold. It is indestructible. Puff. A cloud of blood mist bloomed between heaven and earth. It was an immortal king. He was killed so easily without even a scream. Even his soul could not escape. It was very miserable. This, friend Hondeo. The immortal kings of the demon realm were dumbfounded. They watched helplessly as an immortal king who was no weaker than themselves fell in such an unknown manner. They wanted to rescue them, but they couldn't even move. Oops. Many immortal kings from the demon realm reacted quickly. They looked up at Nangong Yun in the sky, and felt an unpleasant feeling in their hearts. He wants to kill all of us in the demon realm right here. The coercion spreading from the Optimus Prime became the best auxiliary, suppressing them firmly in place. Immortal kings like them suddenly became living targets. Kong had endless means, but he couldn't use them at all. I can only stand here stupidly, waiting to be killed. No. Another immortal king from the heavenly demon realm let out a scream before his death. His figure was blown by a strong wind, and his huge body was dismembered inch by inch. It turned into powder and fell from the sky. Nangong Yun, how dare you? Puff. Domain owner. Puff. One after another, the immortal kings of the heavenly demon realm fell one after another. The other immortal kings were all frightened. This Nangong Yun was a lunatic. He was not afraid of any threats. Not even afraid of the mysterious Senluo ghost territory lord. I am determined to rely on the remaining magical formations from the ancient times, plus all the immortal kings of the demon world, to win here. Good. Some people from all over the world spoke in admiration. They have no sympathy for the heavenly demon realm. If the other party has this method, they will definitely kill them all like Nangong Yun. If they can kill all the top people in the heavenly demon realm if the existence is erased, then the rest of the matter is much easier to say. Although a Senluo Ghost Territory Lord is tyrannical, he is not invincible. They can always find a way to contain the other party. As long as they get the quasi-immortal that the senior Tianji Luzu said Emperor's chance. Maybe. There is still a glimmer of hope here in all the worlds. Fellow Taoist Nangong Yun, do you want to die together with these immortal kings from the demon world? Down below. The second ancestor of the Lu family looked at the formation on the sky, his eyes flashed with divine brilliance, and he said solemnly. Above the entire dark world, a terrifying and huge formation lay across it. Although the formation, visible to the naked eye, is very broken. But there is still a supreme aura permeating the air. It is like the creation of the world, the mist is surging, and various rules are hanging down, making up for the innate shortcomings, forcibly condensing the 10,000 Dao divine chain. The resulting gang wind blew through every corner of the world. Wherever the gang wind passed, nothing existed, and the earth was shattered for hundreds of millions of miles, which was extremely terrifying. Needless to say, the horror of this broken formation, but because of it is too broken and has been dormant for countless years. It is obvious that you want to activate it. It will cost a huge price. At this moment, Nangong Yun is consuming all his energy to activate this formation. Those who deserve to die but are not dead, Taoist Nangong has long ago, I have a death wish. God Emperor Bu murmured. As soon as he finished speaking. Click. A crisp sound came. In the boundless wind, this sound was so clear, so heart-stopping. I saw Nangong Yun's withered bones, as white as jade, blooming with thousands of divine lights, visible to the naked eye. At such a speed, his aura shrank, and the light was no longer there. The bones in his body were extremely dark, exuding the aura of eternal vicissitudes. His left arm was covered with cracks, and pieces of bone dregs fell down, covered with into the void and spread on the earth. Nangong, fellow. Many immortal kings whispered. Although their memories have been changed, many people feel a sense of sadness in their hearts at this time, as if they were a long time ago. He and Nangong Yun once sat and talked about Taoism. Today I saw that he was about to die, and I couldn't help but feel a twinge of pain in my heart. Domain Lord. Enter Lord Qingtian, in front of the giant bronze door. A tall figure wearing armor appeared. His aura was thick and overwhelming. Standing there casually, it made Ren breathless. At this moment, he handed over his hand. He saluted and said in a deep voice Nangong Yun appeared. He activated the remaining formations of the Divine Court and wanted to wipe out all the immortal kings of the demon realm. New. Inside the main hall, there was chaos, with all kinds of divine lights entwining around it, turning into a strange scene, as if the altar in the middle was pulling something. The Lord of the Senluo Ghost Territory stood there quietly. In response to the man's words, he just answered casually, his voice was extremely indifferent, as if he didn't take everything in the outside world to heart. Open the underworld, connect the 9 places, reach up to heaven, and guide reincarnation. The misty voice came from the mouth of the master of the Senluo Ghost Territory. He made seals with both hands, and a terrifying black divine will slowly rose, pulling the essence of heaven and earth from all directions. It came in a mighty way. Several quasi-immortal emperors were sitting next to on the altar. A stream of blood and soul escaped, gathered over, and condensed on the divine wheel. In a moment, the entire black divine wheel rose slowly. It broke through the temple and was fixed in the void. After rising after thousands of feet, the divine wheel was blocked by the formation and could not continue to rise. A rare cold light flashed in the eyes of the Senluo Ghost Territory Lord. He slowly turned around and looked to the outside world. His eyes spanned billions of miles in the void. It fell on Nangongyun, who was struggling to support the formation. An earthworm shakes a tree without overestimating its own capabilities. He moved both hands together, and with a slight stroke, a bright divine light shot out, spanning millions of miles, intertwined with Tao, breaking through the air, exuding the aura of reincarnation. Boom! There was a loud noise on the sky. The formation shook violently, and countless symbols dimmed at this moment. The entire formation was crumbling, as if it was about to be broken. This formation was too old. If it were intact, at that time, the Senluo Ghost Territory Lord might not be able to break it into pieces, but today's formation is so different. Although it can kill the immortal king, it is obvious that it cannot block the blow of a quasi-immortal emperor. Puff! Nangongyun's figure shook, and he spat out a stream of soul essence. It was not blood, but more precious than blood, making his already dim body even darker. His right arm and a thigh where the void collapsed and turned into nothingness. The blow from Senluo Ghost Territory Lord just now did not break the formation, but it caused him, the promoter of the formation, to be severely injured. Fellow Taoist Nangong, stop quickly! God Emperor Biao shouted loudly. Next to him, the Lu family and other immortal kings were also trying to dissuade him. By now, the heavenly demon realm has been severely weakened, and the remaining immortal kings are not from all realms at all. Opponent, he no longer has to use his life to drag the entire powerful people of the demon realm to be buried with him. Can he still stop? An old immortal king from the heavenly demon realm had a cold look on his face and said in a cold voice, "The territory lord has taken action, he will definitely die. When the lord of the underworld returns, you all will embark on reincarnation." Prince Ying also spoke. His face was very cold, and his murderous intent was undisguised. If he hadn't been unable to take action now, he would have wanted to kill Nangongyun. The first one is Nangongyun, and the next one is you. King Ying glanced at Nangongyun, and then looked at the surrounding immortal kings of all heavens and realms. His eyes wanted to choose people to devour, which made people feel frightened. Anyone would be killed by an immortal king. I'm afraid even those on the list would have lingering fears if they were to stare at them. Not to mention the immortal king at the top of the list. Please also ask the Lord of the territory to take action, break the formation, and save my life. The immortal king of the heavenly demon realm shouted. He saw a strong wind whistling towards him, and his whole body felt like falling into an ice cellar. At the moment of life and death, he couldn't care about anything. Only the Lord of the Senluo Ghost Territory can help him. After his voice came out, the Lord of the Senluo Ghost Territory seemed to hear his call, and another divine light rose into the sky, covering the sky and the sun, vast and boundless, with boundless rules. It hit the broken on top of the formation. This blow was even more terrifying, directly punching through the formation. There was a huge hole on it, and countless symbols exploded in the void. The entire formation once again exploded. There is one more loophole. The power is greatly reduced. Nangongyun groaned, and all the bones below the head were shattered, leaving only a head full of cracks, floating in the void. It seemed that it would break into pieces. Although there is only a head, but anyone can feel the twilight energy emanating from it. His time is running out. His foundation is completely exhausted, and his realm is about to fall. Even if no one can take action against him, he does not have much time. How much? This kind of injury cannot be saved at all. Unless the Master of TNG takes action personally. But will people like the Master of TNG put an immortal king in their eyes? Obviously impossible. At this moment, everyone is silent. All the gods are silent. All the immortal kings in the world saw that one of their top immortal kings was about to fall in front of them, and their hearts were extremely heavy. Many people were secretly hating why they couldn't step forward to help. If they could do it, why, let Nangong fall to this point. Fellow Taoist, please retreat. You have done enough. God Emperor Biu spoke. He couldn't bear to see Nangong Yun use up the last bit of his life. I was born in this world, where can I go? Nangong Yun smiled hoarsely, and a dazzling brilliance once again bloomed on his dull head, and an illusory figure stepped out from the middle. It was a young figure. His white clothes were as white as snow, his clothes were flying, and his temperament was extraordinary. As if a banished immortal came to the world. It is difficult for people to connect it with the skeleton just now. Is this fellow Taoist Nangong? Many people murmured to themselves. Nangong Yun didn't squint his eyes. He remained silent and climbed up into the sky step by step. With each step he took, his aura became stronger. The already broken formation was completely broken at this moment. The fragments were shattered, and the remaining energy turned into Wang Yang, and gathered toward Nangong Yun in a mighty manner. It only took a moment. Nangong Yun's aura almost exceeded his peak. He reached an unprecedented point. He stood tall. In front of Optimus Prime, he looked up at the sky and said in a calm voice. It's time for all this to end.